Just before we get started on this week's awesome episode of Sidetracked, we have a quick segment from the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. So my goal with joining Skillshare is to diversify my skill set. Whilst my strengths lie in some of the creative elements of what we do here, I do need to become more well-rounded. With Skillshare, I can find classes specifically for my needs, and I can take control of my career journey. You might know Skillshare for their plethora of creative tutorials, but they actually have hundreds of career-focused classes too. Now is a perfect time to set your goals and start to achieve them. Whilst I want to improve my creativity and my technical skill with the camera, more important than all of that, I want to continue to be my own boss. So tips on attracting the right clients, taking on different side projects, and productivity and time management are insanely important. I've really enjoyed Productivity Masterclass by Ali Abdaal, and the section on productive procrastination was a real takeaway from me. So if you're interested in exploring Skillshare's classes for free, the first 1,000 of you to click the link down in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare.
Hello, I'm Peachy.
Hello, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we are joined by Games Workshop's revered sculptor, Gary Morley. Hello.
Hello. Revered.
Revered, I'd say so.
Send me questions.
Well, they can, but I have nothing but fond memories of a lot of your metal figures, I would probably say. I don't know if you ever did plastics. Did you ever get into the plastics?
I did, yeah.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a bit then. There's so many stuff I've got in my boxes at home that I've painted over the years that I didn't realise until like a bit of research that, oh, Gary did that as well. Gary did that. Oh, Gary did that. I didn't know you did all the Sisters of Sigma stuff. Because I think you did most of the Mordheim Sisters of Sigma, if not all of them.
Yeah.
Because I can tell it's yours by the way you do the eyes. Because you have like eyelids, don't you? And like it's a very sort of, I won't say elven, but an almond kind of shape to it. So I can always tell when it's yours.
I did an awful lot of elves.
Yes, you did.
Probably rubbed off, actually. Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I did that.
Well, we got off to a good start because I thought the Mordheim range was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was a really characterful range of miniatures.
Apart from Blood Bowl, which was like,
yeah.
I think Mordheim was one of the best games, actually.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
A lot of our viewers will agree with that as well.
Yeah, it's got a lot of love on this channel.
I'm be right up front now. I've never played 40k, and only ever played Warhammer Fantasy Battle twice.
I mean,
but that's not uncommon. For
No. I mean, I'm a big fan of certain factions, but I tend to find I gravitate more, or not so much these days, but certainly more towards the fantasy side of things when I'm building and playing. Every now and again, I'll do like sci-fi stuff, or 40k. But yeah, I'm very much like that. When I think I rarely play 40k, but I do collect and paint some 40k.
Yeah,
but I rarely play it.
I've got some on myself. Yeah. I mean, they're gorgeous sculpts.
Yeah.
Especially from what they were years ago. I mean, I know there's a lot of fondness for old Hammer stuff.
Yeah, certainly now.
Especially over the last couple of years, I've been contacted by numerous sort of Facebook sites and things.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I mean, they're lovely guys. They're lovely, and ladies, obviously. But I think there's a resurgence in it, actually. The heft of metal.
Yeah.
And I still like metal. I love the plastic figures, and I get it. I understand they're easy to chop up. You can convert easy. How you put them in a box and carry them from A to B? Games Workshop must sell a lot of glue.
I think I've had more breakages via plastic than I ever had from metal. And sometimes, like the metal ones would bend a bit.
Yeah,
bend them back again.
And they chip a bit more, is that right?
Yeah, if you varnish them well enough,
if you can put
you're all right.
Big gloss varnish and then a matte varnish, and you're generally all right with metal. The only time when you used to do that was if it was like a big metal dreadnought fell off a table and you think it's going to be 20 minutes to find all of that.
Not if you pinned it and concreted it together.
I was never smart enough for the pin and bit.
It just takes some. There is a trick to that as well, which I could allude to later. I guess from my point of view, I mean, I've touched on a lot of your figures over the years, painting for different collections and stuff. Where did it all begin for Gary Morley? How old was Gary Morley when he started sculpting miniatures?
Sculpting or collecting?
Collecting, I guess, is a good start. And then
it's the old story, Airfix.
Airfix, yeah, of course.
7 or 8 years old.
Nice.
Yeah.
Placing them on my Scale Electric track. and knocking them over. Anyway, I couldn't get the ones that I wanted. Don't ask me what army it is now. I can't remember. But I do remember being about 12 and chopping arms off Airfix, WHO, what was it? OOHO.
Oh, the really little ones.
Yeah.
And swapping them over. I think it might have been sort of like ancient Arabs or something like that. So that's kind of the early days. Fell apart.
Yeah.
Using wrong glue, you know. But it kind of standed in the land of. I had this friend of mine is a teacher. He's passed away now, sadly, about 10 years ago. But he wasn't my teacher; he was at a different school. But he ran the local war games club.
Yeah, cool.
And there was an advert in the paper. You know, are you interested in wargaming? H.G. Wells, I think, was mentioned in the advert.
Yeah.
So I thought,
He's credited with it, isn't it? The early days of wargaming is H.G. Wells.
Little
Yeah.
Wars was
Yeah.
Little Wars.
Yeah.
And so I applied for it. Well, went down to the club and thought, this is for me. Because I always loved history and geography and art at school. Those were my favourite three subjects. And we just went from there, really. And people, God, you're going to laugh at this. But people, generally speaking, in those days, it was minifigs, Hinchcliffe. It was all, there was no fantasy around to speak about. That came a little bit later. You know, we used to go up to minifigs. Lived on the south coast at the time. Every month on the train, all sort of crowd of us from the War Games Club, and we'd pile in there. And I think the figures were about 9p.
Nice.
If only.
Yeah.
But it was still an expense then.
Yeah. It's all relative, isn't it? I suppose.
I-
A pint of bitter for 12p, I think.
That's it. My dad told me a story recently, and he said, "Oh, we were up in arms at the student union when beer went up to 17p a pint."
True.
Do you remember that when we said that we would everyone would stop driving the cars and blockade the nation if it hit a pound hit a pound a litre?
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't
I
it?
remember standing there near a motorway one not that long ago, and it were like £1.98 for a litre of diesel, just crying to be tanked.
Was that to water it down a bit?
Yeah. See if we get a bit further out of it.
Further mileage. So, yes, I started painting figures for the guys at the War Games Club. Trouble is, I have a green, brown, red colour deficiency. So, I mean, I've learnt to conquer it.
Yeah.
I stand there in the shop. Whatever shop is it? Excuse me, could you have more colour this? But no, I just read the labels, and I do understand the palette. So I can, if I read the labels, not things like Goblin Green, that, I mean, snot, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and it's a funny instance. I mean, I know you like Napoleonics.
Yeah.
I painted up a young guard unit for somebody, and he had a green backpack, I think, and brown epaulets.
Oh no. Well,
Yeah,
different regiment.
anyway, so yeah, we went through a painting phase.
Yeah. Nice.
Well done. You're the first person to get that in conversation since we started.
We're like,
Good job.
Gary, you can come back.
Yeah,
I think I was in my early 20s, and there was a company called Mike's Models. Did some amazingly good 15mm historical stuff. American Civil War, English Civil War. I believe Ali Morrison actually did some for him as well. I think I'm right. You'll get a phone call.
Or comment in the comments from Ali.
And then I took a break, and it was all self-taught stuff. I mean, I had no clue what I was doing, really. Somebody said, "Oh, they make these out of mini-put." Although, little story, I don't know whether anybody's told you this, but the minifigs figures, when I heard this, I thought, how the heck do you do that? The guy used to build a frame, and he would use solder.
Okay.
And he would solder his how he did it on top of what he did without it melting the other bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then he would carve and sand.
Ah, interesting.
And I don't know if
okay.
you've ever seen any figures, but
No,
they
no.
kind of got a square kind of look. So
All right.
that's what kind of came out of his sculpting. Sadly, he's gone now. But and I thought, there's no way I can do it like that. But somebody told me about milliput. It's great for doing groundwork and things like that. And some people started using milliput. I think it might have been Mike's Models that put me onto it. So, yeah, that's how I did it. Sort of Matchstick Man. I actually put super glue on it to keep the milliput in.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really understand about timing of putties
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
And I used to stick the toothbrush and milliput, and years later, found out when I went to
Look at
visit the
milliput.
milliput factory, it's carcinogenic.
Oh dear.
I don't think that had anything to do with me being ill, but I did have cancer when I was 23.
Oh wow. Okay.
And that sort of put me out for a year.
Yeah.
And then I sort of completely forgot about sculpting. Didn't do it.
Yeah.
Didn't. So got on with life. That period, I was just before I was doing English Civil War reenactment.
Yeah. Nice.
That's where I met the Perrys.
I bet. Yeah. Pre blown off his arm, obviously. That was Creasy, wasn't it? He did that Creasy?
France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not actually at the Battle of Creasy. I mean, that was a long time ago, but yeah.
I feel like I tuned it. I'm like, one of the Perrys blew their arm off.
Yeah.
No.
There's a story about that. I'm
No.
sure when we get the Perrys on, Michael likes to show people the video
Yeah, I've heard that.
and freeze frame it when it's been blown off. He's a bit insane like that.
Wow.
He cares not.
The amazing. It's funny enough. I was talking to somebody last night about it, and I mean, I remember, and somebody commented at the time. I was actually quite emotional about it because I thought, God, it's his right arm.
Yeah. Sculpting arm, isn't it?
Wow.
Days
Yeah,
over.
he taught himself, yeah.
And we actually spoke to him on the phone 2 days afterwards, and he was sat up in bed with a sketchbook,
Yeah.
Amazing.
and he was back within about a week, and then he had some time off.
Yeah.
And he came back in, and well, I was just, that's incredible. It's just...
The funniest story he told me about that, and it still makes me smile today because we're on about it. We've got onto the subject because sometimes you think it's the elephant in the room, right? When you talk about the arm and stuff, because it wasn't the Green Knight his first official model he did when he came back.
Yeah, I think it was.
Which is
a hell of a model.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite models. I was like, well done. But he was saying that he'd done a reenactment a couple of months prior to losing his arm, and you're not supposed to take sharps to reenactments. You're supposed to have, and some guy had a spear that was sharp, and it had gone into his right hand all the way up so far the spear had, and it took him ages for it to heal up. And it was just healed when he did the Battle of Creasy, and then the same arm got blown off. He was like more angry about the fact that it just healed. Yeah, lost it. He was like, that really annoyed me. I was like, of course, yeah, sure, not losing the arm, but yeah.
I had that was a friend of mine who obviously I'd left, but a friend of mine had just spent a lot of money getting a really, really good tattoo and then lost the leg it was on in Afghanistan.
Nice.
And whinged about the money spent on the tattoo more than he whinged about missing his leg below the knee.
That's squaddy humour for you.
Yeah, absolutely right.
It's the artistry that's gone into it, surely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I think we were all like,
Yeah, I
not knowing
bet.
what to expect, really.
Well, I suppose you were quite close-knit in that team as well.
When I first joined, Incept Date. Did you ever get that?
No, we used to get like a bit of a sort of tour around kind of thing. But
Did you ever... Veterans, do they still get leather jackets? Or?
they do. You get a choice of bag or jacket. Yeah, a bag or jacket. And there's new things now. You get different designs of bag. And I was like, I didn't know you had a choice. So yeah, I've still got the jacket with the little Imperial Eagle printed on it and stuff.
Right.
Never worn it.
Didn't you used to get a tie as well at one point?
No, you get a pin badge.
Oh, a pin
you tie.
badge, yeah.
So I managed to get that, but
Well, the first veterans got a leather jacket, and they were good quality ones actually. And it had a label on this.
yes.
Incept Date.
Right. No.
got you.
It's not got that on mine.
Good for weekends. September the 7th, 1992.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I still remember it. I was over the moon. I was chuffed. But Yeah, I also got the statue as well.
Yes, yeah, you get marine, don't you? Yeah. Who sculpted that? Do you remember?
No, but I did help get it going, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, that was... God, I'm trying to remember his name. Never mind.
Because it's been around for a long time.
I think I know that statue. It's nice.
I'll bring
isn't
it one day, actually. Just
Yeah.
and my leather jacket and my little pin, tie pin thing. But yeah, so...
I've got one I've got my statue, but I've also got a resin one in a box somewhere at home.
Oh, wow.
I think it's a little bit chipped, but
Yeah.
it's all there.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, you get like a little plinth and it says like Brother Peach on it.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
do 5 years, you get like a tankard or you can have a goblet and stuff like that. So.
Do any of the vets just be like, well, I don't collect Space Marines?
Well, yeah, it's very 40k orientated. I can't remember if it was Max Bottler or someone that when they got their tankard, because is it pewter? They didn't wash it out properly and started drinking immediately from it, and then just got really ill.
Yeah.
So cool.
I think I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, it's just like
yeah.
nice. Yeah, because there's like all sorts of like stuff inside of it for
Yeah.
probably
So,
brasso or whatever.
so you started working at Workshop in 92.
92, September 92.
And so obviously we know you for your sculpting. What did you do? How did you get into sculpting? What did you do previously to get the job?
Right. Oh, right. Well, okay. So, it's a long time.
It's
I
fine.
remember it's fine.
Yeah.
No, I moved. Okay, this is two wives in my life.
Yeah.
Wife number one, we're two lovely boys. We moved to North Wales and lived a sort of hippie lifestyle up in the mountains.
Yeah.
All right.
And once I'd spent a year doing this cottage art, I mean, we are talking literally isolated up the mountain.
Oh wow.
A track through the forestry, sheep all around us. Okay. Mad.
Yeah, I bet.
Right. So I did the place up. I mean, we bought it up dirt cheap anyway, but and it, black and great ink on it. It was gorgeous. So finished that. Thought, no money, because we'd previously sold a house down south, and we had enough to do the house up. So
Yeah.
so I started painting figures for a company that were located in Wales called Balloners. 15 mil.
Yeah, 15 mil was quite big around that time as well, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a question about that as well.
A
Later
guy
on.
called Danny Borenbull. That was one of his names.
Oh, right. Okay. Sounds dodgy.
He had about 3. Now, I don't know. I shouldn't say anything. Get done for libel or something.
I'll censor it all out.
All right, go. Anyway, I never had any problems with the guy. But he had completely different lives. I mean,
a bit of a...
He was allegedly had different lives.
but the deal that he had with his main sculptor. Now, here's another sculpting style which blew me away. Because I thought, well, he said to me, can you do sculpting? And I said, well, I did it years ago. They were okay, and I sent him some samples. And he said, well, look, I'm going to send you up to my fella in York. My fella, I took that, this guy was employed. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no, it was actually a half and half thing.
Okay.
I found out later. So he sent me up to this fella called Tony Barton in York. Really nice guy, incredibly super talented. But he had if you can imagine this, you get mould line down a metal figure.
Yeah.
Okay. So he would, and he did what he didn't know about Napoleonics. He meant make his figures in Fimo on the back of a plate.
Okay.
Half of it. Now, if you can imagine the mould line on a figure,
Yeah.
he would do this on the back of this, like a normal kind of side plate. And he would then put that in the oven, Fimo, for a little while, cook it, take it out. This is the crazy bit. Slice it off and stand it on a base and do the other half.
Sculpted
wow.
the other half onto the half that was already done. That's bonkers.
It's mad.
It's mad. I've never heard of that before.
No, not.
I've never heard of anybody else do that.
I suppose if it was his way and he found it workable, I guess, yeah, great. But
you
that's
must have
mad.
been, when you seen that, must have been like, what the hell is that?
I was like, no, surely, because this was like my.
I thought you were then going to say. And then he put new putty on and sculpted the back, and then but to then
Even
just
that's harder because
Cast it off, and then put it back in the oven, and he cast them all himself in like cold cast stuff metal, and he would send the tins, as we call them, down to and get them cast up. But super talented guy. He's still around. I think he does 1/12 figures, dresses them up.
okay, yeah,
Amazing heads.
yeah.
I haven't looked at the site for a while, but yeah,
That's interesting. Cool.
Anyway, so yeah, I won't.
It's all right.
A bit, but
Welcome to Sidetracked.
That's what we do. It's what we do here.
so I started sculpting for him, which upset somebody, and then Danny kind of disappeared one day. Fortunately, I had my cheque in my hand, but I fucked it before he did. And then I contacted Trevor Dixon of Dixon Miniatures.
Yes, I'm aware of
and
Dixon
then
Miniatures.
that's when the ball started rolling.
Yeah. Because they're quite. Well, I don't know if they're still going now. Are they still going now? I've not heard of them for a
I
while,
believe
but
so. Yeah. What was my first range? Mulburian. I think.
All right.
It was all. I was mostly into historical. I mean, I knew Games Workshop existed, obviously, and bought the odd Dungeons and Dragons figures because I was into that. And then, a guy that used to work at the Games Workshop, I think he was managing a factory, I believe, a guy called Mac Coxhead. Lovely fella, lives in Scotland now. He left Games Workshop and started up a company called Alternative Armies.
okay.
So I was basically doing work for him for a couple of years.
And was that fantasy-based stuff? Sci-fi? Was that more?
Yeah,
stuff?
that
Okay,
was-
yeah. So is that how you got into like that? Kind
Then we're into the fantasy.
yeah, that
science
makes
fiction
sense. Yeah.
Stuff. Bob Bolly worked for him before, I
Yeah.
believe. And Chaz Elliott. did a
Oh,
bit of
right,
stuff.
okay. Yeah. Recognise Chaz.
And so they were moving on, so I sort of carried on.
Yeah.
And I went mad. I mean, honestly, I went, because I was on my own then. Number one had gone, and I moved back down south. And,
Or was it still because you're in the mountains? Oh, right, of course, yeah. Isolation.
because we went like that, but yeah.
I suppose you were fully prepared for lockdown then. Prepared you for lockdown then during COVID to a certain degree.
I think we ought to go there because I probably got very alternative.
Okay, fair enough.
So there I am in a flat in Bournemouth. A couple of years, having a great time, really. Sculpting for him.
Not
And
bad
then-
part of the world, Bournemouth. I quite like it down that way.
Well, I lived most of my life up until went to Wales, in Poole.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I was born in London. My mum and dad had the wise wisdom about the age of 12 to move us down to Poole. I loved it there. I mean, I was always in boats and in the
Nice.
sea.
Well, it's almost got its own like microclimate round that side, doesn't it? It's quite the weather's always generally pretty good.
Yeah, because got the huge. At one point, it was the largest natural harbour in the world. I think Sydney is now something.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Isn't it just that little bit further on from Poole? It's like the most expensive housing in the UK, isn't it? It's down
You're
there.
talking about Sandbanks,
Sandbanks, yeah.
yeah,
It's not.
in the world.
Yeah.
Which,
in the
when
world.
you think of LA,
Yeah.
and places
That's
like
mad.
that,
Okay,
yeah.
but it's per square foot. Not,
Yeah.
Not properties. It's per
Okay.
square foot,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Pay millions of pounds for a tiny cottage or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the rest
Your
of
parking spot costs more than the Lamborghini you're going to put in it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They kind of ruined it in a little bit of way. Well, I think because they're very contemporary style housing, and it all used to be sort of like 20 and 30s style housing down there.
Which is always that 20s and 30s style for the marine side of things. Always, even though I'm from Liverpool, you start to get out on the North Road away from Liverpool. There's a lot of 19s and 20s houses that really have a marine sort of feel, round windows and all of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
got a real ship sort of design about them.
Yeah. I think the land It was called Sam Banks, not just because it was a huge sand bank.
Yeah.
It was owned by somebody called Lady Banks.
Oh, right, okay.
She also owned a castle, Corfe Castle.
Oh, wow. Very rich.
As one does.
As one does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got into
Sorry.
workship then after a time?
Well, the story is actually that...
feels like there's so many secrets
I know,
need to
doesn't it?
spill out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be tactful and...
Fair. Yeah.
You don't have to go into all the detail. You can just go, yes, I started at Games Workshop.
What I find tricky is actually trying to tell you the details without not filling you in with...
Yeah. Just by happenstance, you started working at Games Workshop and you made lots of elves.
Yeah, anyway, Alternative Arm was doing really well, doing really good deals with different distributors. Unfortunately, he lost a big one to a certain company. And then I got contacted by John Blanche one day on the phone. He phoned me up and said, well, would you like to come up and see us? And so I did. And it was about 2 weeks later, I got the job.
Cool.
Brilliant.
What was your first model? If you can remember. What
Okay.
or range of...
Okay, just to fill in that bit there before I started.
Yeah.
I remember phoning up the Friday before the Monday that was coming up, and I phoned up Rick and I said, I spoke to Rick. And I said,
Priestley? Or,
yeah, sorry, Priestley, and said, what's the first range you'd like me to start? You know?
Yeah.
And he went, Undead. I went,
Go.
was my kind of least favourite.
Yeah.
Really. So yes, ghouls.
Okay.
Now, when I was sat down and said, here's your desk, and I sat, there was Jez, there were the twins.
Yeah.
Dave Andrews behind me.
Had Bob left by that point in time, or was Bob had gone by then?
He'd gone,
Yeah.
I think probably 9 months-ish, probably.
Yeah.
Because Tom Kirby came in about a year before I was there.
Yeah.
That swap over between Brian Ansell and
Yeah.
and they'd moved to Castle Boulevard,
Yeah.
which was a lovely building, by the way.
Yeah,
You missed
yeah.
out there.
I know, yeah. I've heard lots of nice stories about the Castle Boulevard premises, but...
It had lots of character.
Yeah.
It was bags of fun, honestly. And so I pitched up. There's my desk. Got my green stuff, and the guys were really helpful. I think I learned more in a week than I had before everything.
Wow.
They were really helpful. Jez, twins, Dave. And then I met later on in the week Ali and Trish and Colin. Everybody forgets about Colin Dixon.
Oh, yeah, Colin Dixon. Yeah. You did my favourite cannon, dwarf cannon.
Yeah.
You could have a favourite cannon.
I always like that cannon. It's my
My
favourite.
favourite piece of his is the dwarves holding the shield above.
Yes, yeah. Is it King Alaric or something like that on the top? Oh, it's all right. It's fine.
Oh, it's fine. The whole place kind of rattles.
And it was explained to me that we had to do sort of. I asked how many figures do you want me to do a week? He said, 3 or 4. And I went, yeah, okay, I can do that, because that's kind of what I was doing. And of course, being Mr. Eager, I was actually staying with one of the other guys for about 6 weeks before I found a flat. I just went mental. I stayed till 8 o'clock at night. trying to impress.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at these. And they said ghouls. Do you know what a ghoul is? No. Well, it's a bit like this. Okay. And my studio manager at the time, bless him. What he didn't know about toy soldiers wasn't worth knowing, really. But and it took a while to understand the procedure. And he kind of scribbled something out, and I thought, well, this guy obviously didn't go to art school. And I am feeling really daunted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jez by then was starting to make his big name for himself.
Yeah.
What an artist, never mind what a sculptor as well. His drawing ability is phenomenal. Yeah.
And the twins were like, I'm mucking about half the time, but no, they're what. But, and I thought, wow, and Oh, I forgot about Kev Adams. He had a little.
Oh yes, yeah.
He had a little room down the
Yeah.
end of the mezzanine, and I really struggled with it, and I didn't know at the time, but about 2 weeks after I started, it was like, these are not good. Oh, should we keep him here? I didn't know any of this. I was like, I was still in happy cookie land. But anyway, so I survived. Obviously, a couple of people stuck up for me and gave me a go. And then it just went from there. Now, I can't remember the next ones. I think they were whites.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I went through the undead bits. And I was struggling and at times to get my head around some of the moulding techniques as well. And learning all that as well. Because, to be honest with you, the stuff I did before, alternative and other manufacturers, I just sent them off.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned they had to be thick and things like that. But it's when you're sitting next to people like Jez and explaining to you why the spear is slightly oval when you make it, it's because it's going to get crushed with the equivalent of a chieftain tank going over it.
Yeah.
So, in between the rubber. And so there were tricks like that. And then I just started going on and on and on. Eventually, and I know this question's going to come up, so I'm going to preempt you.
Oh,
Go on.
Nagash.
Oh,
Do it. Go for it. I mean, we've got some people asking about the new one, the older one, stuff like that. But
My nemesis.
I don't. You know what? I've got fond memories of Nagash, and I hate the hate.
I've got to be honest. I didn't know the miniature until because early fantasy Warhammer wasn't my thing, and I didn't know that miniature particularly well. And then when this sort of like rolling idea of it being not the greatest model in the world, and then I went and looked it up, and I couldn't see I couldn't see a problem with it.
I mean,
I felt like I was going, am I missing something on this? Because I thought it was fine.
It's like Marmite.
Yeah. It never bothered me. It was just a big undead baddie.
The laughing clown, I think.
Some people call it the laughing clown, but it was just a big undead baddie, right? And it had for me, I'd like of that era, I was into He-Man and Thundercats. It was like felt like Mumra, it felt like Skeletor. It was like those kind of vibes. So it never really like stood out as like that's a joke. And as a kid, getting into the hobby and like liking goblins, dwarves, elves, undead. I had an undead army. I had like loads of vampires. I don't think I ever had Nagash, and that was one of my biggest sad things. I never had, so I've not got the nostalgia of having my own Nagash or Chaos Dwarves. Weirdly, always wanted some Chaos Dwarves, never got any. But yeah, it's interesting that the hate, and I think a lot of folks nowadays hate because it's cool to hate. It's like, oh yeah, Nagash. A lot of people that I hang around with say it's an awful model, so I agree with them. But yeah, I'm from that era of when it existed, and I liked it. I liked most of the models, and I still do because it's nostalgic. And that's it reminds me when I had hair when I was younger. So we've got a Patreon question later on, which I'll touch on about Nagash. It's nothing like, oh, why did you make it? It's to do with like influences and stuff. But I've got to say, because I'm not a sculptor, I've green stuff like making cloaks or chainmail skirts or berets that look like ketchup's been poured on an orc's head. Not very good. When you're doing armatures for models, you obviously flesh it out with green stuff, and you then work into that. Making a skeleton must be so hard because you're having to. Your armature has to be part of the skeletal structure, I assume. Yeah. And then you have to make all the rib cages and stuff.
You have to compromise. I mean, like fill in. You can't have a hollow rib cage.
Yeah.
Well, you can now, plastics.
Yeah.
But back in the day, no, you can't. And you can't make it to scale.
Yeah.
It's just possible. And that's why some of them look a bit, out of scale or femurs in the room. Oh, anyway.
Yeah.
But those were like a learning curve for me.
Yeah.
I felt like I was like swimming around in a bucket of cream. It was lovely, and yet at the time I was kind of drowning a bit because it's But anyway, once I'd got that under my belt, I think the first 6 months was a bit of a struggle, and I learned that Well, I'd learned this in previous jobs. You just don't walk in and go, "Oh, well, I know how to do it."
Yes.
You'll talk about that later on when I had trainees, but
I know that feeling.
but I did. I mean, I'm going to say something here, and this is true, and some people might not like it, but I actually was so keen on stuff like, oh, okay, undead, okay, Egyptians, click, what? So I spent the whole weekend. I went to the library, got loads of books out, did loads of sketches, and brought them in on Monday. Oh, you can't do that. Oh no, hang on a minute. And to be fair, you don't, do you? You don't go in and go, these are my ideas, I think we should do this. I didn't do that, but I was like, well, this is what I do. And I did it mostly because I was enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
And they had a meeting before and they brought me in. They said, no. I went, okay. And what have they got years later?
Two Kings.
And not only that, but then they also pushed that whole idea through the Necrons as well, because later Necrons also have a slight Egyptian
very
feel. So
heavy vibes, yeah.
So not only did they say no to you, but that they then went and did it twice anyway.
Yeah. So a question about Nagash. So you made it. You must have been proud of it when you made it.
I did at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and it was my first big multi-part kit.
Yeah.
And at the same time I was doing that, Jez was doing the Avatar.
Yes.
The Eldar Avatar.
Yeah.
So they were similar sizes.
Yeah.
And I did put a lot of work into it, a few hours, and I was still working late, and I was having a great time. This sounds like a soppy story. I've not forgotten the Nagash question, but every single day we were at Castle Boulevard, and for years there was this brass plaque on the back of the back entrance we used to go in, this staff entrance. Anyway, Games Workshop Studio, and I would tap it as I went in.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're there. Yeah.
So going back to Nagash, I got a really, really rough sketch.
Yeah.
And I started doing it, and Mark at the same time, well, to the latter part of me finishing it, did the illustration.
Yeah.
Have you seen the big illustration looking again?
Yes, yeah. Mark Gibbons, yeah. Such amazing
great.
art, yeah.
Wish I'd been given that. I had to learn along the way how things fit, when it's going to get cast, moulded, etc., all those problems. And I'll just quickly say the story, because I've said it a number of times to other people, but yes, there was an original head. There was a sales meeting. They didn't like it.
Yeah.
Didn't fit there, what they thought Nagash would be. And the studio manager came back on Friday morning and Friday afternoon after. They had a sales meeting every few weeks.
Yeah.
Back in those days, you could make something and 3 months later it'd be out on White Dwarf.
Yeah.
It was that quick.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Was it a couple of years now?
Yeah.
18 months at least is the minimum, I think. So,
Yeah.
And he said to me, and he could probably correct me, but I got the wink, was they don't like this, do something else. Okay, put a skull on it. So there's an old Dave. Don't forget Dave Andrews.
Yeah, skulls on
Saying
everything.
this for us, skulls are us.
He whenever he used to make a kit, and I've probably said it before, it was like some work in progress of a tower, I'd be like, oh, have you got an idea what it's called? And it was always something of Screaming Death. Everything was always something of Screaming Death. Like, this is going to be the Tower of Screaming Death. Okay, what's that? That's the chapel of Screaming Death. I was like, cool. What's that? That's the mansion of Screaming. Okay, yeah.
Sounds like the worst town in the world, isn't it?
Don't go on your holidays there. But yeah, skulls. He put. I used to count now when he was doing projects. How many skulls? I was like, there's one less skull on this, Dave, than the last one. He was like, what? So always used to add an extra skull each time. I loved it.
It's like Dudley from Harry Potter when he's complaining about his about his birthday presents. Last year I got this many skulls.
It was a good filler, actually. I mean, we did, if you had a gap somewhere on the figure, and it's like, well, that's not going to cut. Put a skull on it.
Yeah, stick skulls everywhere. It's the best way. That's how you know it's Warhammer as well. It's got skulls on it.
Yeah.
It's better. But I mean, if I think back now, because I've got a big book called The Art of D&D, and there's I think it's Asarak, which is like one of the evil gods. He's just like a floating skull. The early art is, I'd say, arguably more comical and silly than probably what people would argue Nagash is, and it was of that era. So it's of its time, right? So that style of like undead, it's of its time. It fits with like what like cartoons were on at the time, and like how D&D was perceived and stuff. So people judging that style now, going, oh, it's not in my day that would happen.
You see, early Warhammer was meant to be a jokey kind of fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it's very brutish now. Very dark.
Yeah. We've darkened it. Well, they've darkened it up, and it's grimmed it.
I'm not criticising, but some of it's just too dark for me.
Yeah. It's
I've got
too serious
spiritual values, and I wouldn't. I mean, I have actually known people leave Games Workshop.
Yeah.
They thought, I can't cope with that chaos stuff anymore.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, it's fair.
I suppose in some ways it's Adam West's Batman to Christian Bale's Batman, isn't it? In that respect, you think it was fun, it was colourful. It was a.
Did you like the last Batman?
The most recent one.
Yeah.
The most recent one.
Seen it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. Yeah,
because it's got a lot of criticism in some places. I just think, I love this.
Well, I'm extraordinarily biased because a lot of it was filmed in Liverpool, so I'm going to love it anyway.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm going to love it anyway.
I just want to hear Batman with a Liverpoolian accent now.
Oh, yeah. Well, the funny thing is, isn't it, is there's a funeral in it, and it's all done at a place called St George's Hall, which is a really big Gothic-looking building in Liverpool. And in the long shot, you can just a sea of people in black for this funeral. You can just see a Merseyside bus stop with the like yellow trim around it, which Gotham's still gonna have a bus service as well. But someone was like, when you Mr. Freeze and you've got to create mayhem in Gotham, but you've got to get yourself back to Kirby for 8:30. And it was this thing just in the shot of it. But a lot of it filmed in Liverpool.
Yeah,
it's quite weird when you watch it though, because you recognise, you go, well, I know that building, and then there's 3 Gotham skyscrapers behind it that aren't. You go, that's not what's there normally.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was a big fan of it. Yeah, I really liked
they used
it.
Wallerton Hall, didn't they?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
the
they did.
Christian
Yeah,
Bale
was the rebuilt Wayne Mansion.
Yeah.
As it goes down in the first film, and then when it comes back in the second film, it's become Wallerton Hall, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's how I always think of Warhammer Fantasy, is that in its early days it was a bit Adam West.
Yeah. I mean, it's bright colours as well. So
Really think about how you only have to think about how green orcs used to be to how green orcs are now, wasn't it?
And
they were vibrant.
That was Kev.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of old Hammer, middle Hammer, orcs, goblins.
Yeah.
They
Bright
were
green,
always-
reds and yellows.
Yeah. And you could just see them sort of on a battlefield bashing each other over the head. But, the enemy's over there. And he had that. He had a gift, and he still has that gift for doing those kind of that style.
Yeah, I mean, going to the Chaos Dwarf thing, I don't know who worked on that, but I remember in like some management meeting, they were talking about the history of it and how like someone would sculpt the Chaos Dwarves, and the person that was supposed to review it never actually properly checked and just went, make the hats bigger, and that's how the hats got. Yeah, so I don't know if that was just like
Alan did most of them.
Yeah. It was a manager meeting. Someone was like talking about it, and like you had a load of managers like eager, like, oh, this is amazing. And they were just talking about the history of like Chaos Dwarfs and stuff, and they were on about like the hats just kept getting bigger because there was like a bit of a communication error.
I mean, I did some for Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
I did some Minotaur or something.
Oh.
Minotaur Chaos Dwarf thing.
Yeah.
Well, a Chaos Dwarf with a bull's body, I think it was.
Yes, yeah. There's so much good stuff with Chaos Dwarfs. Louise, who I work with a lot, she's recently just painted one up on her channel that's super vibrant and bright.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, it's
classic,
really nice
paint jobs. Is it Warcolours, the new range of paints, or Nostalgia 98? I think it's called. There's a range of paints that are just like the old Workshop Citadel paints. So Goblin Green, Snot Green, Blood Angel's Orange. So someone's revamped those paints. I don't know if it's the same company or not. But
Never bought yellow back in those days.
no, it was
Shocking.
it didn't do anything, did it? So, you obviously have some art background as well. Did you do a lot of sketching before planning out your sculpts, or was it just like you had an idea and it just went straight into it?
The upshot of that conversation was, okay, I ain't going to bother sketching anything ever again.
Just going for it.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I can,
Yeah.
but
You don't need. Yeah.
and it just wasn't me being petulant. I just thought, oh, I'm not going down that route anymore.
Yeah.
And it served me well. Not to really, because here, do this, great, brilliant. But it got to the point where they trusted me. I mean, you got to be there a few years before anybody trusts you. It's like any job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I want some love. So you'd get the reference from the old stuff, and you'd go, okay, I'm going to interpret it this way. And largely, I think I was successful at it. You know, I loved doing the high elves. I mean, based on Jez's stuff, and then I did other regiments. You know, the maidens. And Swordmasters and
they've got a lot of love for the Swordmasters in the comments as well.
Oh, right.
A lot of people like saying they love the Swordmasters. Yeah,
You'll have to
Swordmasters.
forgive me. I mean, a lot of these
I didn't know if it was Hoth or Hoeth because it's got an E in it. I was like, is it pronounced Hoth? Is it pronounced Hoeth? I think it's Hoeth. So moving from Nagash being what people refer to as like the worst model ever to Tyrion, which I am confident to say that a lot of people revere as a really, really
That
nice
was
model.
A little bit later, but
Yeah.
by then I got what broke the lack of confidence, if you like. Still feeling like I'm sitting in a room of superstars.
Yeah.
Trying to match up. Was Blood Bowl.
Okay, yeah.
We went from undead. And I think you asked about plastics earlier.
Yeah.
I did a few plastic bits. The sort of wizard that does.
Oh yes, yeah.
For Warhammer Quest.
Warhammer Quest, yeah. Some lovely models in that.
And then I did the Orc in Blood Bowl set, the 3rd edition. Incidentally, not a lot of people know this, but the front cover of the 3rd edition, me is Griff Wolverbold on the front. The Perrys are in there. I think Dave Gallagher painted himself in somewhere.
I had a copy
and
of
I'm
that.
not sure Jervis Johnson is in there as well on the front cover.
That's amazing.
But Blood Bowl was it. I mean, I just took off. That I loved, because I loved that game before. You used to play it with the card counters.
Yes, yeah.
And when they gave me that, I was like, yes, here we go. 14 months I did the whole complete range.
Wow.
I used to come in on weekends.
You did the whole range by yourself?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's incredible.
Well, there were...
I knew you did a vast majority of it. I didn't know you did it all.
and the large majority of the stars as well.
Yeah. Yordle Freeze was my favourite.
Yeah. I've still got a copy somewhere of that.
It's so good.
And I took it and I went with it. And it was being really successful. And at that time, my royalties kicked in. Oh, did we mention royalties? And it was like the promises that they made a year after joining there started to come in. And I was like, yes, this is the pair. You know, this is what I was promised. And I felt part of the team then.
Yeah.
Great.
Earn your stripes kind of thing, I suppose, by that point.
Yeah. And it was incredibly successful. So the royalties, and
I had no idea the sculptor's got royalties.
No, I did not know
did.
that. Yeah. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
yeah, and I'm the responsible one for them probably not getting them anymore.
Oh.
They paid you too much money.
Well,
We don't have to say anymore.
well, I'd not been there long, and I didn't go. It just payslip was out on there, and I went, "Ooh, I'm going to have some of that
Yeah.
for it." So it was worth working weekends and things.
Yeah.
And I loved the subject. I really did. There were other bits that I wanted to do with it, but again, I was still being let loose.
Yeah.
And I think by the time I'd finished that, and I'm being a bit big-headed, but by the time that was launched and being successful, I think I was being given a lot more responsibility then.
Yeah.
And let loose. So it was then the high elves starting to come in, and then the wood elves. And
You did a Lariel, didn't you? Not a Lariel, the
Lariel.
the butterfly winged lady as well.
yeah,
And did you do a Ryan?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah, with his big spear and his dogs.
That's a great miniature as well.
Yeah.
If somebody was going to ask me, that is one of the favourites.
Yeah.
that I think I've ever.
It's a great miniature.
So you get so much sort of like it's an elf, but it's very woody. Just from that one miniature, you can look at like elves in Jammer and go, you could probably argue that that's just like the War Dancer is a great example, is actually being very wood elfy, but you look at him and that is everything you.
Yeah, it's a man who strode out of a forest.
It's got all
for
the
a fight.
fights.
That got me confidence. But
Yeah.
Was Tyrion after that or before?
Can't remember.
But there's a whole selection of because I didn't have a high elf army, but I used to get like figures, and I'd buy like Tyrion, or I'd get Elariel or the Handmaidens as well, and I'd turn those into undeads, Larmians and stuff like that. So so I used to do a lot of converting even when I was younger. But Dark Drakari, or Dark Elder as they were, Drakari is the new form.
Did those? This guy called Tim. This is embarrassing. Well, I've forgotten his second name. He was the guy who did the original Thunderhawk.
Oh yes, the one that had 1,000 casts of in the wooden box, all metal.
400 quid, wasn't it?
Yes,
And they go for thousands now, don't they?
It's crazy. I mean, it's lovely when you look at it, but I'd never build it.
Bit of a nightmare to build, I've heard.
I think it's suffered a bit.
Yeah, there was a Swedish guy and his team built one on YouTube and sold it. Being Squidmar.
Is that Squidmar?
Yeah, they built one and they drilled the life out of it and put massive amounts of rods and everything in it. And it to be fair, it was finished. It looks stunning, but you think that was him with a team. That wasn't like just one man sitting on his own in his on his coffee table. That was people in the studio really doing their best to get it working.
But Tim, when he did that, he wasn't in the studio. He was still downstairs. He was in the mould room.
Oh wow!
That got him the job in the studio.
Yeah.
But, and he's a brilliant straight line designer. I mean, he's still doing stuff today.
Yeah.
But I think it's all on computer now. But brilliant straight line designer. But yeah, he built that vehicle for the Dark Eldar.
Yes, the Raider. Yeah.
First miniatures I ever painted were along with Space Marines was from 3rd edition. Starter box was the Dark Eldar.
Of course, you would have done those plastics for that.
Yeah.
That frame, it's got some mistakes on, but I'll hold my hand up and say, look, we did that in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Do you know how long they get now? So my mate Steve, he moved from being in hobby products where they'd have like 6 weeks to do like a tank frame for scenery, and he's moved to the Specialist Game Studio. And I think for like not a hero frame, like a medium frame, it's about 14 plus weeks, probably longer actually. I'm probably under guessing now. I'm being conservative, but it's probably a lot more than that to do one frame. So they get so much time to do it now. I don't know if that's just because of all the quality controls and all the tooling and stuff, but 3 weeks.
Yeah, there was a deadline, and I have weekends and that.
Yeah.
I know there are some mistakes on it, but and as Bob was mentioning the other week, it was all in that Chivant clay.
Yes, of course,
stuff that they make cars with.
Oh my God, it never dries.
It's terrible. It is actually really awkward because you're working away on it and turn it around and you go, I just knocked it up, put my thumb in it or something.
Yeah, he said that it was very easy to ruin it.
Don't put it under a light, for goodness. Because it's a clay, but it's got kind of like a wax in it as well. And it's.
I've got a question about Drakari. I keep saying Drakari. I want to say Dark Elder because that's what they are. Dark Elder. 2. My favourite Dark Elder model was Lilith Hesperex. Really like the design of her because she was like that serrated armour. She had like the face mask. She had like a trident. Dagger and a spear.
Sort of half haircut thing.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
There was another one called Corella the Vile, which and there's so many people painted
the names.
It's like Corella the Vile. Good job. When you designed it, did you design it to be in a bodysuit? Because so many people are painted naked with a mankini kind of thing on.
Oh right.
She has like these tubes that go down like across the arms.
I think I remember that miniature. Yeah,
but they obviously go down the top of the body as well and,
Yeah.
and downwards. I assume it was meant to be a full bodysuit, but the amount of people out there painted is like, no, it's a bikini. That's not a bikini.
To be honest, I can't remember it. Yeah,
She had like weird things coming out
we
of her
did.
hands.
We went through a period of certain parts. Figures, and
Yeah.
it was always like, should we get away with that?
Yeah.
I can't. I'll find it in a bit. But one of the patrons asked, "Did you have BDSM in mind when you sculpted the Dark Eldar?" Oh, you're so innocent. I love you, Gary. Bondage,
yeah.
domination, and sadomasochism.
Oh, right.
If you like latex and leather,
Of course.
good answer. Strong answer.
It's blatantly the bag when you look at them, isn't it? You know. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what they sort of would
Yeah,
be
what
into,
they- yeah,
really.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
You know, getting pleasure from hurting and.
Yeah.
And did you know the most popular loose bits kits? So when they used to have all the bits spare, you look at the back of the codexes or the books, you have like all the bits that you could buy separately. Did you know the most popular one was the 2 slave girls from Azrael Vex barge? Because you got like the sister bat with a little
That's
dagger.
not me.
Is that not you?
No, that's Chris Fitzpatrick.
Is it? Oh, because they feel very much like your style
'cause
as well.
he did some as well.
Ah,
It wasn't
interesting.
entirely me.
So I found the
The
Cruella de Vil.
Cruella de Vil. So that is how people painted it naked.
Could you put that up on screen at some point?
Yeah. Let me
Actually,
just-
that's how it's meant to be.
Is it?
Oh, fascinating! And then there was something that maybe looked like a more official video, that a picture that was like, oh no, it's just like a black
it's a
skin
bodysuit.
tight.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
face mask. Yeah.
It was the inspiration for that was from the female character from a film.
It's not Star Crash, is it?
No,
I was going to say 101 Dalmatians, right?
I can't remember what it is now, but yeah. It was a dystopian movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. There's a lot of.
Set somewhere warm by the looks of it.
There's a comic called. I forget who the character is now, but there's a range of comics from 2000, not 2000 AD. Heavy Metal, they're called. I don't know if you ever got any.
Yes.
Heavy
Oh,
Metal
yeah,
magazines.
Heavy Metal
And there's one
magazine.
called Fact 2, where she had like something similar to that, but she had like armor and she had like a big gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah. Played by Julie Strain or something like that.
Yeah.
Pin-up model, I think she was. So the reason you wanted to come on this show, Gary, and we're going to touch on it now, is about crediting artists. Because I know your name, I know your style, because I've collected a lot of stuff over the years, and your face has been in White Dwarf and Army books, as many other sculptors. Colin Dixon, that everyone seems to forget about, but I love because he did a lot of the dwarf stuff that I've collected. Dwarf cannons. Go dwarf cannons. Who doesn't love a dwarf a cannon? So what are your thoughts on that? Because you obviously have opinions, which is why you want to be here.
Well, I saw that particular episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, right. Well, I never got it to my face when the Gash first came out, but I knew there were whispers.
Yeah.
At the time. Not so much as there were later on. The later the period.
Yeah.
And I used to see it on. Are you allowed to mention other?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like Daka Daka.
No, we're not going to get
Early
into trouble
days
for any of that.
of-
Yeah,
no.
Daka Daka was the big War Seer was a big one at the time.
2000s, I think.
Yeah.
But the one that really, I'm actually jumping the gun here. Get the credits, okay? We actually quite liked it at Games
Yeah.
Workshop, and
You're doing right.
yeah, and it actually, when you went to a show, the customer would seek you out actually because that's the bloke who did that.
Yeah.
And I used to love talking to the customers.
Yeah.
I really did. I had a lot of time for retail guys as well.
Yeah,
'Cause-
work hard.
I saw some. You know some stories too.
Yes, yeah. It's like working in the trenches. Once you've left, you don't want to go back.
And they treated us like we were living in a White Tower. I mean,
Yeah.
you know. And they did use us for that as well, I believe. It's a legacy from Brian Ensel days. I could be corrected, but because he used to be a sculptor as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So he kind of understood that, well, these guys getting royalties. So
Yeah.
therefore, their name would go on the box,
Yeah.
on the product. You'd go to shows and people would know what you'd done, like you said. And I think my overview is that they should still be doing it. Now, I think there's the excuse is it safety of care for
like
employees?
protecting people.
A few people have suffered from criticism mentally.
Yeah.
And I get that. When we were doing Lord of the Rings,
Yes. Yeah.
which could be a whole new other episode.
We'll
Hang on.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. All
Yeah.
these pictures in front of
And
me.
your book. Yeah, we definitely want to touch that as a subject.
But there was a website called Last Alliance, and I
Yes.
think it was about 2004.
Yeah, he's got that.
I mean, I'd already won Worst Sculptor at Games Workshop.
Don't tell me you won it another time.
And they just ripped into me like the worst Lord of the Rings figures. And when I first saw it, I was like,
He would be. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was still the early days of social media.
Yeah.
You know, we just got rid of those bubble apple computer things.
Yeah.
And it was still early days. And I just, for a couple of days, honestly, I was genuinely knocked back.
Yeah. Can I tell you why I think that is as well? Is when you go to shows and you're credited and people come up to you, they actively want to talk about the stuff that you've done. And anyone that has any reservations are too cowardly to do that and won't do it.
Oh, absolutely.
So when they had that format to be able to do it without any repercussions,
Yeah.
because if someone came up to me on a show and went, I don't really like your painting style, I don't think it's very good, I'll be like, that's very brave of you to come up and say that.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's cool. It's not for everyone.
I have had it.
Yeah. Well,
And I don't
some
mind.
people got balls, and that's good to do it. But yeah, when you get to that point where it's all that disassociation, and you don't have to be there in the room. And
Well, when they want you dead,
oh god, yeah,
it's like,
yeah, for a figure that you sculpted,
when you first read it, you think, are they being serious?
Yeah.
Or,
Just poor use of the English language, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's
or just a very strange outlook on life.
yeah. and the way, it's not just, oh, I hope you die. It's the way they put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hits you. However, it was actually somebody in this group that wrote to me personally and said, I saw all those posts. Okay. And I think he was older than me, right, by some years. And he wrote in a message to me and he said, how about taking this stance? So I actually posted a reply, really big long one, gave a little bit of colour history about the Lord of the Rings now, of the big adventure that we had and everything. And,
Yeah.
and the first figures we were doing, the photographs that we got were really sketchy.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
They were very poor.
I've got opinions on that because I've had to do some of the painting side of stuff with really sketchy photography.
Yeah. I mean, back in the early days, he was experimenting with stretching elves' faces and things,
Yeah.
and it, you know. Anyway, that's another story. But anyway, and it was a good advice from this guy, and I replied, and the flood of, yeah, don't listen to them trolls and things, and, well, you're great, you're brilliant, and all this. We love this. Is our favourite figure, and it kind of made.
Yeah.
That's the best way to deal with it.
Yeah.
It
Head on.
really is. It's just completely ignore it.
Yeah.
Because what I did was, I'm really sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry that you had to buy this figure to represent on the table that I have failed to give you the. That's the best
Yeah.
way. Because they,
Yeah.
there's no, they
Yeah.
can't get
You
back.
can't come back to that
You
kind
can't
of
come back.
No.
Because I always apologise for doing this thing, and
Be humble.
but
Yeah.
the other thing as well, and I guess an argument can be made that but that's your skill set, you should be able to do this thing. But at the same time, it's like you are trying to represent someone that is an actor or actress that at this scale, and painting that is a nightmare. Because
Yeah.
I've had to do like Billy Boyd and Dominic Montague, I forget his surname. When I did Treebeard, I enjoyed doing Treebeard, big dry brush. lots of dry brushing, lots of contrasts. Then I had the 2 little hobbits to do to go on Treebeard. I was like, oh my god, this is good. And that's painting, not sculpting them. So, you know, when they're plastic, it's hard enough, and they've got that, they can blow up on the screen and stuff. But when you're doing it
it's
as
really
green stuff,
hard.
yeah.
And it was the first time we'd really done it. I mean, the Necromunda, there's a guy in a Necromunda gang, Vanso.
Yeah.
That's John Blanche.
Yeah.
That was my first foray into sort of really trying to copy somebody. I don't think he knows, actually, but it's really hard. And occasionally I used to do other faces of people. I can't remember they were, but just people around the studio.
I never thought of it. Yeah, because they're all beardy guys, aren't they? Yeah, clever.
I saw some interesting comments on Reddit recently, and it was pictures of characters. So there was the Space Marine video game, and they've released a miniature of that, or they're announced the release of a miniature of that. And then there's a lady guard.
Yes, yeah.
And she's like running with a sword. I think she was a character in a book that I haven't read. And someone like still now is just like, why is Games Workshop so bad at making faces? And it's just like, it's really, I don't know.
Because they're that big.
Yeah, they're tiny, and it's really difficult, I imagine.
I mean,
yeah.
I collect a lot of 6-scale figures, and there's a company called Hot Toys and Sideshow Collectibles, and they do figures of Marvel characters, they do figures of Star Wars characters, and they still get it wrong, and they're 1 to 6 scale, not 28 mil or whatever. So, you know, people need to get back in the box when they start getting a bit. Just wind your neck in.
I think people. The problem is, it's something they become they love, and they're so invested in it that they sometimes can't see. They can't see the wood for the trees, can they? They just can't. They go, I love this thing, and it lives in my imagination as an 8-foot tall man, but then they can't make the jump. They can't make the leap to understanding that you've got to sculpt that at 32 millimeters tall. It's and it.
I mean, I'm going back to like
step back from it a little bit. I think.
Going to the Fellowship of the Ring, I bought an extra Boromir so I could cut his head off and stick him on a rifleman. And cut it down a bit and make Sean Bean to be the leader of my rifles. It's not 100% accurate to sharp, but it was my way of getting Sean Bean on a rifleman, and it was work. I've had it for years.
Was he the first to die?
No, he never died. He died in everything else, but not in Sharp's rifles. He stayed till the end.
So for those of you that
all his mates died,
we need to make a sidetrack bingo card.
To see how many different.
And it's like, oh, Peachy talked about Sharp. Tick.
See how many we can get in there.
Yeah,
genius. But yeah, I mean, I look at the Sean Bean sculpt of Boromir, and there's some likeness, but it's not 100%, and you can't at that scale.
No.
Brian did that.
Brian Nelson.
Yeah.
He's done some amazing things as well. It's just a fast creativity that guy does.
Sculptor in the world, okay. I know it.
Well, I'm not the best painter. I'm not the fastest. I was humbled at the weekend because we went to UK Games Expo, and my dad was very good at dry brushing. He had an issue, he had a stroke, and had to relearn how to do some painting. He couldn't do fine detail anymore, so he got really good at dry brushing. That for me was like an early sort of dry brushing's good. A lot of people used to see it as like a skill that's be like it's the rubbish way to highlight. But I was sat with Byron, and he was showing me and my buddy Steve dry brushing, and it looked like he'd airbrushed it. It was so smooth, and I'm just like, I've learnt loads today.
I was stood over your shoulder watching that, and I was like, that's like witchcraft.
Yeah, next
and also
level.
It freaked me out seeing you being taught something.
I enjoy. No one should ever be at a point where they can't learn new tricks and stuff. And it was just really humbling for me to go. You know, I was always quite confident at doing dry brushing, but then to be next to someone that's a master of it, just go, yeah, I'm just small fish in a very big pond right now. And I feel that now these days when I've left workshop, I thought. For a long time, I was a fast painter, relatively decent army painter. There's so many more better people out there than me, and they always will be. So don't ever, shame yourself. Yeah. Someone out there's going to do it for you. So be your best friend. Be your own best friend.
Styles. The different styles and techniques now. Over the last 20 years, it's just. When I started painting miniatures, it was umbral enamel.
Yes. Yeah.
And you couldn't get them off your fingers.
The smell.
And to shade. What's that?
Yeah.
But some of the stuff was just absolutely gorgeous.
Well, a friend of mine hit the nail on the head a little while ago, and he said there is people painting now for their own hobby, for their own army, that 30 years ago would have been winning a golden demon with that captain.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and and now it's just, that's the captain in my army that goes in the box in between games, and going, 30 years ago they'd have been winning golden demon with that.
Dave Andrews made a good point. I recently went to play a game of Napoleonics, and we got talking about, like, there's it's a fun movement where you paint stuff in the old style. You go classic paint jobs and you do goblin green bases. And Dave was like, the best way to do a classic paint job is to use the paints from the era. See how you do then.
Yeah,
Because
right, yeah.
John Blanche was the leader of that, the way he used to approach that kind of painting.
He
And
uses inks and oils.
yeah. So, and Dave was like, at that time, that was next generation level. People look back at that and go, that's really weird and poorly done. It's like, with the skills he had and the paints and the equipment he had available, that's really good.
Yeah, the paints, the brushes,
Yeah.
The amount of equipment available to the non-professional painter now compared to the professional painter 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Dave's a brilliant. We sat in a room together for 4 years, Dave.
Wow. That must have been great.
all on our own. And got such a dry sense of humour.
Yes, yes.
And we actually had what do they call it? Was it the open category in Golden
Yes,
Demon back
yeah.
in
That's
the
right,
day,
yeah.
where the staff could enter, and it came down to me and Dave.
Did it? Was this the joust?
He did the joust,
Yeah.
and I did the self-portrait Blood Bowl figure.
Oh,
And it was
amazing.
like, because we were doing it at the same time.
What a great imagine that Monday morning.
We did a brilliant project together called Formula War once at a game.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I still got one of the old.
Which games did? Was that? I recognise Formula
Oh,
War.
come on.
Was it like
Mid.
2000 sort of? Yeah.
We had. Do you remember? You know Andy Jones.
Yes. Yeah.
Name dropping here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Name drop again as well. Who's the guy who played Queen with the fuzzy hair?
Brian May.
Yeah.
Dave and I did this Formula. We call it Formula War,
Yeah.
and it was orc racing before
Yeah.
Gorkamorka came
Yeah.
along.
Yeah.
In fact, but and it was brilliant. We spent weeks building this thing, and you know what Dave's like building the scenery. It's just, let's put this.
Yeah. Did he put any milk bottles underneath it?
I don't think he did, actually, but I know what you mean. It was great. They actually, when we finished it, they caged it up and took it around different shops.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, wow.
And they came back in pieces.
Oh, no.
But so it was a participation game against, I can't remember which one it was. It was around about the late 90s.
Yeah.
And Andy Jones was showing Brian May around, and his son was taking part. And Brian May, what's it like to be famous? I looked at him. What?
You're asking me? That's mad. I had a weird thing on the weekend. There's a painter I really respect and like called Sarastro. He does a lot of paint guides for Star Wars. He's got like a huge following, and the guy who voices Darth Maul for the TV shows The Clones is one of his patrons. Sam Whitner?
Sam Whitworth.
And I saw him. I was like, me and Steve were like, we got to go and say hello to Sarastro. So I was just like, I really love your stuff. Looking at the stuff he's got in the cabinets. And as we were leaving, he was like, how's it going on the YouTube channel? I was like, I didn't realise you recognise me. I was going all right. It's good. Can I get a selfie? I was literally about to ask you to get a selfie. Why are you asking me for a selfie? I'm a nobody. But that was really nice just to have that kind of weird sort of engagement with someone that they say never meet your heroes. Yeah, Sam. Sarastro's great.
Going back to what we were talking about credits. And things.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, yes, I think they should get them.
Yeah.
But that breaks into two parts, I think. I think if you're a sculptor, painter, artist, creative, that would, back in the day, got your name on your artwork, credited White Dwarf, that kind of thing in a book, games designer, which I think they should anyway. However, I mean, I can see the argument for not, but the negative of not doing it, I think, outweighs the positive. If you're going from one miniature figure company, gaming company,
Yeah.
to another, it doesn't really matter whether you've had your name on the product or not.
Yeah.
Because all they have to do is phone up Games Workshop and say,
Yeah.
did he really do this? Or she did really do this? And they can just confirm it. But if you're leaving to go out into the big bad world on your own,
Yeah. Very difficult.
I did this. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And you've got to go through that hurdle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think the positive outweighs the negative there.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way of me saying that I painted this army in the cabinet, I painted that army in the cabinet, I did that army in White Dwarf, other than, if I'm lucky, I've got a credit in White Dwarf that says that I've done that. So it is all like through trust a lot of the time.
Yeah. I mean, there's no record of me working at Games
Yeah.
Workshop. I never had,
Yeah.
like, I'm not credited for any of the work I did.
But back in the day, I'm sure down at that
Yeah.
name of the names in White Dwarf column,
Yeah.
it would have been there.
It says
Yeah.
I know
graphic designer.
I know
and
the
have,
other photographers used to.
Yeah.
It would have every sort
And
of
in
branch departments, because it's a graphic design done by, and then have the names of like heavy metal, who painted the models in that public, not just all the heavy metal team, the ones that actually contributed.
Does White
to
Dwarf still have a visual editor? As in the fact, in the fact that a face, it used to be,
Yes,
it
they
used to
used
be
to do
Paul
like the-
Sawyer, didn't it?
Just drop your hands
Yeah,
if it blocks your face.
They used to, and I think they still do. So I've not looked at White Dwarf for a few years now, but a few months. But they have like the team on the front, and it's Lyle, who is the current editor that I'm aware of. At least he was when I left, and they all have a photo of the team.
Oh, good.
But I don't know if they're photos. I've not looked since the Only Hands thing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I hope they are, because I think it used to be a real thing, wasn't it? That
connection.
Yeah, because my friend Jake Thornton, he was the editor of it at one point in time, and it's still a thing that people know people for being the editors of, and one thing or another. And I think that was quite nice to have somebody that is approachable for it.
Yeah.
And going back to like when you go and saying it with events and stuff, I even think that now with like Fest, like people went there hoping to see like the sculptors.
I was going to bring this up. Yeah.
And
they
they spent a lot of time queuing up to do certain things, which I'm sure some of those were great, but a lot of the creatives want to go there not to be like told how good they are, but just to see the impact of what they do on the people in that hobby, and how it's like, I'm doing the right thing. They're enjoying that. That's really good to know. Because it focuses you on your job. Because I got that when I used to do like army painting, when you'd go to like events and stuff, but like, I really love the armies in the book, really appreciate seeing like vast collections. You think that's good to know that we're doing the right thing. Let's do more of that and make sure it's better. Whereas without that, now you're just like, are we all right? Is that okay? People like it. So, again, it's nice to be told you're doing a good job. That's what I think. It doesn't matter about ego or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just being told you're doing a good job.
And it helps because you do a better job on the job.
Exactly, yeah. Like when I worked in retail, not as like Games Workshop retail, I worked in a company called Quick Save. I used to have the no frill stuff.
Nice.
Most of the managers didn't care. There was one manager, the last one I ever had, when you finished, you were like, thank you for your work today. And you were like, oh, yeah. He's like, you're welcome. And you work harder the next time. So, because he thanked you for it. Even though it's probably him just going, I'll just say that thing because it makes him feel
You weren't
better.
a trainee manager.
No.
Because back in the day, when I had a short job at Tesco's, what did we call it then? It had a home and wear, that's it.
Yeah.
Tesco.
Yeah.
Every fella that joined there, because there weren't many women that joined as trainee managers, everyone was a trainee manager.
Oh, really?
And actually, all you were doing was just putting stuff on the shelf.
Yeah. Madness. I want to touch on Lord of the Rings, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I was at college, the last year of college. It was 2000 when I started seeing stuff creeping into White Dwarf. And you and a bunch of guys obviously were busy sculpting away at probably that point, getting stuff prepared. So it would have been, and I didn't join retail until 2001 when a lot of things were already in the pipeline or produced, photographed in the shop. Lord of the Rings is and will always be one of my favourite game systems. I collected every single miniature possible, every box that came out of a different Aragorn pose I bought. And my favourite one at that time, because I think it's the paint job as well, was the Arwen on horseback and on foot. I know they ended up doing a newer version later on where she's like cradling a what's it called, Hadafang, I think it's called. the name of the blade, but there's one where she's like
That's right.
doing that, and she was a badass in the game. She had a spell called Nature's Wrath that used to do like they changed the rules because it was devastating, but they used it all the time.
No, every Games Workshop game is balanced.
But I have such fond memories of collecting all that stuff up and painting it. And there's you, the Perrys, Brian, Alessio obviously wrote the rules.
And there were a few special painters as well.
Yes, yeah.
This is awful. Very embarrassing. Shocking at names.
I mean, a lot of the heavy metal guys were jumping in and out of like moving from being heavy metal to being sculptors, and then new ones were coming in. So I've lost track of who did what at that time from the heavy metal team because they were moving around quite a bit.
Yeah. The one I'm thinking of in particular.
He's
a sculptor now.
Yeah. Would it be Dave Thomas?
No.
Neil Langdon? Seb? No. I'm struggling.
Neil.
Might be Neil, yeah.
There was my career at Games Workshop, which was Warhammer.
Yeah.
And then there was my career at Games Workshop with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And it was mixed with Warhammer, obviously.
Yeah.
But Lord of the Rings, I remember that now the twins were in on the secret before we got Alessio and Brian and me in to join them at the table with our studio manager.
Yeah.
And again, I am a bit of an emotional guy, actually, and I'd read Lord of the Rings about 5 times through the course of my age. And it was like, fantasy. Sorry, this is Lord of the Rings is fantasy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
There'd be no Warhammer without it. So,
they brought us into a room, not about this size, around about a table like this size. And the studio manager just got this folder out and said, "We've got the license to do this."
Mad.
Brian, Alessio and I, and the twins were like smiling like this. And we looked at each other and all cried.
Amazing.
I could imagine you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite important.
We looked at each what? And we want you
One
to
of the most
do-
well-known books of the 20th century.
Yeah, we want
being
you to
made
be
into a
part
movie
of,
in this.
Sculpting, games design. Really? We left the room.
Bet you skipped out of work that day, didn't you?
And that's where the journey began. And we had so many amazing experiences in that.
Yeah.
I mean, right from day one. I mean, it was tricky. We had a room downstairs next to the mould casting room.
Yeah, because that was down there, yeah.
Double locks on it, safe in the room, frosted out the windows, all this stuff. And I remember Arwen was the first one I started. And it is really difficult to make. I mean, I was sat opposite Brian and he said, I can't get this right.
Yeah.
And it took ages.
Yeah.
Literally took ages. I spent a whole afternoon and just ripped the thing off.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get it right.
And the thing is even compared to Warhammer at the time, they were a small sculpt, weren't they? They were a small size. They weren't.
That was part of the deal.
Yeah.
You
They
had
were
to
more
make it real life.
Real life,
Yeah. True scale.
True
real
scale,
life.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of the deal, and rightly so. Actually, I mean that's the flavour. And we just went from journey to journey. I mean, we dipped out on the first movie release. We went down to London to see the film before anyone else, basically.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of public.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. We were there with the press, I think.
Yeah.
Brian, all that. And we had visitors come over. We had Richard Taylor come over, his wife. One of the guys was headed up as the marketing guy to liaise between Weta and Jackson. And he left, actually, a side story. Set up his own company later. And it was just, we went from one adventure to the next. And I loved making them. The twins have made most of them. Brian did quite a lot as well. Most of mine was first film and probably halfway through the second film.
Yeah.
Because I was somewhere else when they were doing the third. That's right. But it was just amazing. I mean, we met loads of stars. We went to all the parties.
I mean, yeah, you've got some
a photo
pictures
here
here.
of lots of things happening there. So
We got invited to go over to New Zealand for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
yeah, because you're in the Hobbit hole there, aren't you? Is that part of the? Is that all in the same place where they actually had the exterior of the Shire as well as the interior? Were these separate? Separate
No,
locations?
it's an Earth studio.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a wreck. Actually, when you see these things and you see them all pulled down, you think, oh no, they pulled it down. But they do. That's what they do in the film industry. They build a set, and then they take it down.
Yeah.
And then they finish it. You think, oh. And then obviously they built Hobbiton out in the fields.
Yeah.
For real now, yeah.
Been there, but,
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it before it actually got pulled down. But we were invited round to we saw him every day. I mean, he took
PJ.
a whole day out
Yeah.
to sit in the Weta studios and learn how to make toy soldiers.
That's amazing.
And I tell you what, in a day, he did really well. We all had a turn. Twins had a turn. I had a turn. Brian had a turn, teaching him different bits. And he absolutely loved it. And one of the guys said, "We have never known him take a whole day out to sit with somebody."
That's mad.
and do
Yeah.
something."
I remember before. I remember reading about him talking about Games Workshop getting that, and he said even when he never played it, he was always, when he walked through Wellington, he would always stop and look in the Games Workshop window and was fascinated by how great they were.
He's got an amazing collection of soldiers.
And then said how pleased he was that Games Workshop got it, because he'd always had that.
Didn't the Perrys do a range of Gallipoli theme models for him as well?
Huge.
Yeah,
'cause he's a big World War One guy, wasn't he?
I did one. I was going to get involved in the project, but timing. I was actually starting to work from home then, from Games Workshop. So, and to be fair, the Perrys swam with the tide, as it were.
Yeah.
And they loved it, and they could afford the time to put extra effort into that. And they were invited back, and they did a huge Gallipoli diorama.
Yes, yeah. It was a salute, I think.
You can
wasn't
see it on. There's a YouTube thing on.
Yeah.
I think somewhere.
Mad.
It's massive.
Yeah.
It's mad. But they make figures on the toilet. They're just.
They do,
they're just-
because I've seen it.
They literally do.
Cubicles at Games Workshop. I've got green stuff on the floor.
Well, yeah.
Literally been mentioned on the show, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, by Bob, yeah.
Yeah. And they are quick. But yes, that adventure. I mean, there's so many experiences in that.
Yeah, it's just,
Apart from actually having the challenge of making the figures, and that was fun in itself.
yeah.
I mean, you get to see stuff like a year before.
Yes, yeah.
And you know, again, Lord of the Rings fans are frothers, beyond frothers, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, I am one.
and you can't say anything.
Yeah, yeah.
You just cannot say.
Yeah.
Did you find that challenging?
Yeah, especially when I used to go home for dinner at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because my wife then worked for the same company,
Yeah.
and we were all, actually the whole family worked for the same company at one point.
Yeah.
But go home at night and it's like, what have you done today? Sorry, I can't tell you.
Definitely not to the same level as you, but I did some stuff for the Hobbit movie, and I'd seen loads of stuff beforehand, and my wife had read the books. She's a big fan of it. And I'm just like, I can't say anything. I'm so excited. There's Radagast is riding a sledge that's being pulled by rabbits, and it's just mad. And I've seen it, and the sculpting looks great. A question about that as well is like the approval process was interesting, because we would paint some stuff, and I've got some fun stories about that, which was like, let's say you take Barlin, he's got like a sort of a burgundy claret jacket on, and one of the painters would paint it, and then photos were taken, and it'd get sent off, and they'd be like, no, it's the wrong kind of purple. Or it's the wrong kind of, it needs to be more sort of like a magenta or this, that. It's not quite the same kind of tone. And yet they're making Lego figures, which look nothing like the actors or actresses or anything like that. I'm just like, so that's okay, but that's not.
Yeah, but that one's okay, and a miniature that hasn't even got a nose.
Yeah. But I got a load of photos for Mirkwood, and it was weird because there was dark green, and there was like loads of purple splodges and loads of like orange splodges, and I was like, that's weird. So I just mimicked the photo as best as I could with what Dave Andrews had made, these citadel trees and stuff. So I just kit bashed loads of them, stuck them together, used ready mix filler to fill them. I just made big, like chunky trees, painted it all dark green, did all these stains and stuff. And that got approved, but that was pre-production, because they did all the filters after that. They did all the graphic finished like graphic effects, and it looked nothing like that in the movies. It was like it was a totally different looking woodlandscape to what I'd painted. So I never quite understood who was approving these things, because I made something that looked like the photo, which looked nothing like the end product. But then someone had painted something that looked identical to the photo, but apparently it was the wrong colour magenta. I was just like, that was mad. So I dread to think how hard that must have been from your guys' side.
I've got a story.
Please tell.
I've told it somewhere else, but I'll tell it again.
No, absolutely.
The approval process, you had obviously get past the studio manager, number one, and they would do a few castings. Obviously, you understand the process. The first castings are the crispest.
Yes. Yeah.
So they'd give that to the figure painter. That would be sent one copy to Weta, the film company. The name of them.
Was it New Line at the time?
New Line.
Yeah.
And one to the actor or actress. Actually, they're all called actors now.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the funny thing about that is some of them were more important than others. So you had A-list actors that had to have full body approval.
Yeah.
And the other ones just chest high upwards.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And it wouldn't take too long, only a few weeks really, for the whole turnaround thing. Now, we had very little problem at all. There were a couple of tweaks, but mine was probably the most amusing story. The only one that I got returned was Arwen's Liv Tyler.
Yeah.
And it came back, hello out there, Liv.
She does watch. She's a fan of the show.
It's well known she's a big fan of the painting face.
It came back a couple of times with my studio manager at the time. Said, I don't know what we're going to do. Because apparently she thought I'd made her face look a bit like Viggo Mortensen, which I found tricky to understand because he's got a beard. And I made, am I allowed to say bum and tits on here?
You have.
Bum and boobs. Probably kind of. She thought I'd made them too big. Right. Now,
all right.
Now, going back to what we were talking about earlier about learning how to make certain parts on a model bigger or smaller to go through the metal postings.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what you do. But of course, being first castings, they are slightly bigger.
Oh,
Further
interesting.
down the line, it'll compress, won't it?
Well, yeah, when it goes into production, it should work out.
So metal female figures over time get a breast reduction the more that they're pressed. Interesting. Yeah.
So anyway, so it came back twice, and we sat there. I don't know what you're going to do, Gary. The only thing you do is sort of start again.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, I'll do that. He said, let's just send it back. So we sent it back.
Well, without doing any changes.
Doing anything at all. And it came back and said, brilliant.
And it's the same one.
That reminds me of so many managers where you don't change the work and they go, yeah, that's much better, thanks.
Well, Dave will confer this with you in the room with you before you. Our studio manager at the time, he used to come in and say, perhaps back then in the day, I don't really remember that, it was either like that,
Yeah.
like that, or I don't know, like that.
Or like that with Mark Gibbons art.
Yeah. So he'd come in, hello out there, you know who you are. He'd come in and go, perhaps, give it a bit of air of mystery.
Oh, yeah. That's, how do you sculpt air of mystery? I'm intrigued. Do tell.
So I'd say, okay, have you got any ideas? Yeah, what about this? Yeah. Right, I'm on it. Come back a couple of days later, done this and so. Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted you to do.
And it's exactly the same. Phenomenal.
I had a meeting.
Maybe he thought I was being obstropolous or something, which I think probably a lot of people used to think I was. But anyway, yeah.
I had a meeting when we did Stormcast when they were first coming out. We did some paint jobs on them. This was like early days of like coming up with concepts, and our brief was celestial. So I was like, "What's that like?" Just the night sky. I was like, "Okay, the night sky, cool." So paint them like the night sky. So we did in black. We did in like purples and like blues and stuff like that. It's too evil, too dark. Wanted them to look celestial. I was like, "Okay." So I just looked at nebulas and like so there was a lot of research and stuff. And I in the end, I think it was Dave actually who said, because I was doing some reenactment with Dave. And he was like, remember, not all weapon halves are going to be dark brown. They can be red, they can be blue, they can be green because they paint them. So try doing different weapon halves. So I did that. So I did gold, I did like blue weapon halves, blue leathers. And they were like, this is interesting. You need a little, and the favourite term, you need a little bit more. I was like, okay, I'll write that down, a little bit more. Like that. And then one of the managers was like, can you make it light but darker? And I was like,
Sorry. Been there.
I'll try. Didn't change him.
Yeah.
That happened a lot.
Side issue. Yesterday I was actually, I got you something, but I decided not to bring it in.
Oh, no.
But it was a chess set, and it was at a market. And the guy, I was picking it up, and the guy said to me, "There's a full set there, except for two."
It's not a full set then, mate.
Great.
Oh dear.
Market salesman.
Yeah. This I did like music, like A level, played a lot of guitar when I was younger, and we do some recordings of stuff, and someone said, and I think it was like quite a common thing in like music that people would make jokes about it and memes and stuff, and it's like, it needs to sound more cold. And it similar with like with miniature painting and
Graphic
things.
designers,
A bit of studio manager coming. We had one for a long time, and then they changed.
Yeah.
And he came in and said, I think I'm getting this creative process now.
The fact you're saying that suggests you're
We
not.
sat there. You're learning creativity.
Good job.
Brilliant.
If you ever get time, there's an Amazon show called Beyond D&D, and it's the art of Dungeons and Dragons. And there's so many similarities in there because you've got like the artists like Brom, Clyde Caldwell.
I may have come across
Oh, it's so good because they have like similar issues where they're talking. I know I mentioned this on the show before, but like one of them, I think it's Clyde Caldwell, is talking to the camera. He's like, yeah, the guy came in and he just studio manager, not creative, no idea. And he just says, I want you to use your most expensive paint on this piece of art. And at that time, it was like some form of red. He's like, you just want me to use that one colour? He's like, yeah, it's your most expensive paint. It's got to be good. Just use that. It's just like, and then another one was like, use every colour you've got. Was the other brief.
Just mix them all into a brown.
And I was just like watching that going, that sounds so much like the studio. This is great. But I suppose that is the thing. It's like, regardless of how good you are as a creative, you will get those non-creatives coming in that don't really want to look like they're helping, but then just say stuff that means nothing.
Oh, you get it across everything. You get, I'm a barber, and you get it. People come in with a photograph of a football, and they go, I want my hair like that, and the person in the photograph's hair is 3 inches longer than theirs, and you go, I'm a creative barber, but making hair longer is not a skill that I have. You know, if I could make hair longer, I would have a far bigger shop than this, and I would have probably retired by now. Yeah, you know,
because I'd be there.
Well, people come in with just a snapshot, going, you can make it look like that, and you go, the problem is it's all right, show me a photo, which is helpful, but I don't know what the back looks like. I have to sort of guess because I don't know what it's gonna. You know, to sort of go. I'll do what I think that probably looks like at the back, but I don't know.
Just be like, I'll just go to my extensions cupboard and get them all in.
So, right.
I've got some Patreon questions, if that's okay, to fast fire them at you. There's a few we've already answered across the everything that's happened so far. We're going a good while actually, which is great. I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but it's interesting. Lone Samurai said, with the retirement of the amazing John Blanche, I actually thought he'd retired, which is really bad because he'd not been to workshop for a long time.
2 weeks now.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
but he's obviously got a lot of health issues as well, which is such a shame. And I did see him in the bar a lot, but I'd not seen him for a good 4 or 5 years. And I just thought he'd retired. But yeah, it was like, oh God, he has actually officially retired. So yeah, Lone Samurai saying, with the retirement of the amazing John Blanche, how much did his art appear in the sculpts you produced, and vice versa?
I thought that was me.
I do apologise, everyone at home. So yeah, how much of your work was inspired by him, and did he take some of your work and use it in his art?
John's a very enigmatic character.
Yes. Yeah.
I just love the guy. I think he's just, honestly, and I know he won't mind me if he sees this saying that, his concept work is better than his finished work, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's the way it's displayed.
He'd bring in loads of stuff, never precious. You know, you could like look at his stuff, a bunch of drawings, and not use a thing from it, and he'd be totally happy. Seriously.
Yeah.
He'd be just, right. But you would. You go a bit from here, a bit from there.
Yeah.
A bit of this. Now, it was mostly on Mordheim and 40k type subjects, like never really sort of got in on the fantasy side of stuff with being given concepts.
Yeah.
And he would only come in sort of once every week, 2 weeks, and have a wander around. And when I got a compliment from him, which wasn't that often, but I mean, he couldn't see everything. But when you did, it was like, yes, got it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's I wish him all the best.
Yeah. Try and get him on the show. No, he's left.
We might have to go there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've had so many engagements with him across the years, and I've always enjoyed them. And he's, I remember being a White Dwarf article, and he was talking about, I ride motorcycles, but everyone seems to think I'm an expert, and I know nothing about motorcycles. I just use, and I'm the same. I'm like, I know I'm aware of other motorcycles, but I used to always get like nervous and anxiety when I'd park up at a car park where you had like a bike area and there'd be other bikers. I'm like, they're going to ask me questions about bikes I have no idea how to answer. So John was the same with that. It's just like he just likes riding them for the sake of riding it. That was his joy.
It's good enough.
He had that sort of image of being a sort of, I don't know, Hell's Angel or something.
Yeah.
No,
The waistcoat.
he wasn't. No.
What we got here?
There you go. You might recognise that.
Oh, is that one of his?
The Enforcer.
Yeah.
I got permission
I'll have to get a photo of that so we can show it up to the
cast, and I used to take some to games days or
camera. Yeah.
shop openings or things like that, and I'd give out the odd couple.
That's very cool.
It's amazing.
So there's not that many out there.
Yeah,
at all.
yeah.
In fact,
I'll take a
think
photo at the end and
Yeah.
I've only ever got one resin left now.
wow.
So good.
That's so cool.
And
Get a shot.
is that
I have actually sold a few copies of it,
yeah.
but part of my collection.
Amazing.
But yeah, that's from when he was doing Necromunda, I think.
Yes, yeah. I say it's
But
got a
yeah,
very-
no, I mean, it's brilliant stuff.
So yeah, that's answered that then. Thank you. Andrew Gibson is asking. Andrew Gibson. He's joined us twice. Which pointy-eared models would you like to update if you had the chance? Which pointy-eared models would you like to update if you had the chance?
Mr. Squidbar is probably watching this.
Oh,
all right, okay.
This is really embarrassing. I've had a commission from him for 3 years.
Yeah.
To do Illyrial again.
Oh.
A version.
Yeah.
And
Is this for his range?
the last few years I've been kind of very poorly. I look quite healthy today.
Yeah.
Ish, but I've been on and off, and I get this weird sickness disease thing. I get a migraine that just floors me.
Oh no, it's not cluster headaches, is it? It's not a cluster migraine like cluster headaches, because I know a colleague of mine, Wade, used to get them for like 6 weeks, if not more.
No, not that long.
Yeah.
But, it can last 2 days. It can last 2 weeks.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a killer.
And I'm just throwing up, on the loo.
Yeah.
Rubbish. So I've got to say, sorry. And I know he's been really patient with me. And I have done other people's stuff in between.
Yeah.
But it's that confidence thing. That, the last version they did, I've got to compete with that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And I keep putting, I've started it 3 or 4 times. And I've taken off, start again. And I've had a few family issues as well.
Yeah.
And then there was all that business with stupid COVID.
Yeah.
But so for one thing, it's still on my desk. So if you're out there, it's there, and I'm working on it. But it's taking me a long time.
So
that is the one.
I'm going to be your own best friend right now and say something that I'd say to staff that I'd have, which is don't try and compete with someone that's done a digital version of a Larry Elf that was on a screen.
Oh no!
Just make the last one you did better.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
It is looking better.
Yeah, exactly. So you shouldn't be ashamed of it. If
I mean, I started it again about 6 months ago.
Yeah. How you? Yeah. Someone. Dave was the same. You know, he used to say stuff like that. It's like, as long as the next project you do is better than the previous one, you just compete with yourself. Don't worry about what digital. I mean, she's an amazing model, granted, but it's huge amounts of investment and time.
And no, this will be old school.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
We like old school.
Because he's an old school wood elf collector, isn't he, Squid?
Yeah. He's a nice guy.
So not that one. Oh yeah, well, we covered it. Old Monk is saying in the 90s, every release for Blood Bowl seemed like it was made by you, which it was.
Good reason for that.
How did you manage to keep up with the workload? Do you just do it in the evenings by the sound of it, and weekends?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm non-stop.
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can see that. I get arthritis in this, and it flares up like mad.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, I take alternative medicines, and that helps.
Yeah.
Turmeric, by the way, if you're interested. But that eyes.
Yeah.
My eyes are, I'm on number 3s when I'm working, which is to be expected. Right?
I'm there now when I'm painting. I have to put goggles on a lot of the time for it now.
I mean, if I would go back to me when I was like, in my 20s, I was banging out armies in a couple of evenings, weekends and stuff.
I open the window.
Nowadays, I struggle to get like a couple of squads done in a week. So,
But it's enthusiasm.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've got loads of scratches. I want it. Loads of itches I want to scratch, not loads of scratches I want to itch.
And the commissions I take on now tend to be not for companies, but for individuals.
Yeah, private ones.
And I get to sketch these.
Yeah,
and they're really fun because they don't mind waiting at all.
Yeah.
It can be,
here's a fun question. Katie Graham is asking: is any projects you wished you'd been on, but never had the chance? Because I know there's a lot I wish I was on.
if I'd done 40k, which I only did a few bits for, really.
It's quite a lot in there.
Yeah, sorry. I can't. When John Blanche did the illustrations for, excuse me, but the Space Marines with the big pointy hats, the first.
Oh, the
ones.
custody dudes. Yeah.
I wanted to do those. I thought I would have loved to have done those, but at the time they weren't ready time-wise for the fluff and stuff.
Yeah, there was always this thing like, if you can't really have Primarchs in the game because they'll just dominate. You can't have Custodians because they're dominated. Yet nowadays it's like, they're left, right, and centre, aren't they?
Yeah.
But there was the art. You're right though, because the art for the Custodians predated them by a long time, didn't it? Yeah.
But if the question was worded, would you like to remade something?
Well, that's one here. That's the next one, which is Christopher Venti saying, which is you most proud of and which sculpt isn't, and would you do it again and why? So which is the one you're most proud of?
Well, probably the Orion.
Actually. We kind of touched on that,
Which is great. Minute.
But
the least favourite, and if you'd redo it,
well,
would it be Nagash?
it's got to be in it. But I did actually remake it. And there's a company in Spain that.
Oh, really?
It's a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And he did slightly alter it again. But anyway, that's funny. But it's an ex-GW guy. See, I'm doing it again.
It's not
it's
Juan,
my
is
age.
it, or anything like that?
No, Juan. No, the other one.
There was Israel. There was
He's got his own company. Oh my goodness!
I know there's so many that just like come and go. I can't remember.
I mean,
half of them.
I've actually, since I left Games Workshop, I've worked for many different companies. So it'll come to me when we're talking about something else.
Absolutely. Let's have a look. A lot of these we've already answered. Tyrion is one of my favourite models. Yeah, we've talked about that. What is your favourite cheese? What is your favourite cheese? Whilst I find another
Dorset Red.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that was quick.
That was an Andrew Gibson one as well.
That's a good question.
It is actually.
You get some like that now and again.
Astra Bellin is asking, which is your favourite material medium to work in?
Oh, well, it's green stuff.
It's green stuff, yeah.
But I do use milliput. I'm totally old school.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've messed about with the other pieces that kind of do. I mean, but it just, no, I keep coming back. Yeah.
There's one question here. Someone says, do you remember a time where you were so daring that you didn't expect a sculpt to be accepted, but it was ultimately signed off? So if you thought, they're going to say no, we'll see what happens. And then they went, love it, great.
We never really had that luxury, to be honest.
Yeah.
No, it was a schedule.
Yeah.
You stuck to the schedule.
Yeah.
However, what I did used to do was things like that on my own bat.
Yeah.
Figures.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned Arwen earlier on the horse.
Yeah.
You know, she's got Frodo over there.
Yes, yeah.
That was a lunchtime project. I would just do that in the lunchtime.
Yeah.
Again, a favourite model.
Chaos Warrior was given away. Was a Games Day figure.
I had that one.
Yes.
Holding the elf by the throat.
But I did a version where he's holding up the elf as well through his chest cavity.
Crikey.
But
the 18 plus version.
yeah, it is.
I thought for a minute we were like, oh, he's holding the elf by the throat. And I also did a version where I was holding him. I was like, oh, that's nice. Oh, through the chest, through his chest cavity, from the inside.
There's a few others as well where I did extra bits.
Yeah,
nice. The troll hole. I guess we've kind of touched on it, but I'm going to say it anyway. How did you deal with the negative reactions to some of your work at the time, and how do you feel now that some of those models are looked upon with real love and affection? I personally loved everything that you and the rest of the studio put out from 1 year right through to the end of the Red era, as he refers to it, I guess, like the Red Guns. It's more of a compliment, just say.
There weren't many face-to-face, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, like as you said earlier on, they're just not brave enough.
No.
And they're probably generally, and I'm sorry to sound arrogant, not intelligent enough to put together their argument. And when they were, and I don't mind criticism at all. I mean, as you know, your first critics are in the studio.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to get used to criticism really quickly,
and that's and it's very helpful.
Yeah.
If I don't mind anybody criticising my work as long as it's constructive.
Yeah.
As long as they've got an answer for me. If they just say, "Oh, I don't like that."
Yeah. I think
okay. Thanks for paying my mortgage.
Yeah.
It's
weird because it's like I get a lot of value when we get comments, and there's some comments which is that's rubbish, unsubscribed. It's like, cool, why is it rubbish? Elaborate. What did I do that you didn't like? And you get ones going, oh, I'm not really sure about this because that's not the way I'd have done it. I found it really hard to understand why you use this colour with that colour. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't really explain that very well. What is it? So I'd watch the video back again. Yeah, I didn't explain that. I should. Next time I need to be a bit more articulate as to why I've chosen that colour to go with that colour, or whatever. So I always found those level of comments far more useful because there's something they don't like. They're explaining a reason why they're struggling to understand it, which then allows me to go, oh, okay. It's a communication error on my part, or it's how, not with you, but with previous videos, how it's been edited, put together. So when I was working at Warhammer TV, so it was always useful, like when we get like comments like that you take it on board. You don't get like an emotion to it other than like factual. Okay, there's an issue here that they're struggling to deal with from a painting point of view, and I've failed to communicate that effectively. And that's one person commenting, so there'll be others watching it having the same feeling, but they might not necessarily articulate it. Whereas you get the ones that are just like rubbish, unsubscribed, cool. Thanks for stopping by. Cheers.
Hope they didn't have an ad blocker on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about it. What's this? Stephen Morris. Hi, Gary. Do you think GW should go back to crediting the designers, artists, creatives? Yes. I think that's the answer. Yes.
Why not? I mean,
It's what harms good. I mean, I understand the argument. I've seen over the years, the 20 years I've been there, I've seen a handful of people get hate, and it's not nice. And like you say, people have had a lot of mental health issues with it from that, and that's not on. And that's the negative side of it. But the positives far outweigh that of the momentum as a creative that you get from that, the energy it gives you, the positivity it gives you to then go on and make the next thing better, far outweighs like the one or two people that have a bad time. And it's not nice that those people have a bad time, but then what we should be doing is not removing that, but find a better way to support them, or find a better way to help them along the line, going, okay, this is going to go out like the meme Marines, they get that. And as much as we ripped it to pieces, there is a human behind that model that made those, and they're probably suffering the same thing. And it's they're a human. They've put a lot of time and effort into it.
I think there is a difference though between saying we don't like that. This,
well, we give the reasons why we don't like it.
Which is Space Marines with missile launchers, but we didn't go. The guy who made them needs to drop dead tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the thing that people forget: A, it's a human being behind it, and B, you might not like that thing, but you know what? C, the next thing that person might sculpt might be your favourite thing in the range. And I think it's very easy to be quite short-sighted and dismissive of the fact that that's a person with a job and feelings and has to go home at the end of that night thinking no one likes that thing I made. And it's. I hope they work in a job where they have nobody ever criticises what they do.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's always. I mean, I'm very self-critical of my stuff, and I look back at things, and it's.
Well, I've been a barber nearly 20 years, and every haircut that walks out the shop, I think any day now I'm going to get rumbled that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The old imposter syndrome. Do you ever suffer from imposter syndrome? Because I get it all the time. Every video I put out, every paint job I've ever done.
Well, you're Jason straight through the
Jace Ham, Statham.
Well, this is completely off. Going back to when I said I was poorly.
Yeah.
True story. A very rich relative of mine, once I was coming out of the chemotherapy, this is 1980. And have you ever seen your doppelganger?
No.
Right. He bought me and a mate a holiday in Benidorm, Spain, back in the day. That's a mental place. Being a young man and surviving something, you sort of get out there and enjoying yourself. And I walked into this bar once with my mate, and this woman just came running up to me and threw her arms around me. I was like, "Oh, I thought you'd left. She pulled out this photograph, and I was looking in a mirror. This guy looked exactly
Oh, my days, yeah.
He was an American sailor. Back in those days, apparently they used to park the ship outside the harbour. Or wherever it was.
Yeah, normally outside the harbour because they were too big to get in, weren't they? Yeah.
And this guy looked exactly like me. And I thought, so thanks, mate.
No, I've never met McDoppelganger. Someone said it was on Question of Sport. There's a rugby player called Matt Dawson. There's a few people liking me.
Oh, now you mention it. Yeah.
So I'm just not as hench as that guy.
There's a golf player as well.
That's all right. I bet his painting's not that great, so you're okay.
That's fine. Yeah. He's better at playing sport.
Yeah, some famous golf player as well. Somebody said I look like.
Oh,
I'm Irish.
Not McElroy, is it?
I don't know. I don't play golf.
No, same. So you've given us a model. Tell us a little bit about this model first, because you've kindly given it to us to give away. It's very kind.
It's my first. Up until this point, all the miniatures that I made were made from milliput onto a wireframe. Same method.
Yeah.
But this is my first foray into green stuff. And it's not really of any particular subject. It's a sci-fi girl somewhere in the near future, possibly.
With like some kind of Mac 10 Uzi kind of...
Sort of tiny bolt gun thing, really.
Yeah.
Ish.
So I'll take a photo of it and that will come up as we're talking. So you've kindly given this to us to give away.
Yeah.
How should we do this, Pat? Should we do this for like next month's giveaway?
Yeah, so we have a June giveaway going at the moment, which is for our World Eaters Army in Soul Shackle. So we'll do this in July.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be part of the haul.
And I think the question is, so if you join our Patreon, when this video goes up, in the comments of this video with Gary Morley, all you need to do is answer this question, which is Gary Morley's favourite model he's ever sculpted. And if you've watched the video, you'd know.
See, I'm here and I'm like, wait, what was it?
That's why.
I know.
We'll let you off. You've been doing a lot of busy button pressing.
It's Warhammer names.
In the analytics now, we'll have 2 spikes at one point in the video. Another point in the video where you mention.
Brilliant.
So people keep going on it.
Fantastic.
The other thing I want to quickly go before we roll back and end is you've got a really cool little book there full of autographs from people from worked on Lord of the Rings, and there's some really interesting things. So lots of people just giving you nice notes.
Yeah. Can I tell a little bit of story of this?
Please do.
Please do, yeah, absolutely.
Please do, yeah.
Oh, yes, please, yeah.
Okay, so we're in France. I'm probably going to get the name of this wrong, but it's after the second showing of Lord of the Rings.
Right.
The Two Towers?
Two Towers, yeah.
Yeah.
It was in France, in Paris. Oh, wow. Oh. So we watched the film, came out, went to the party, got invited to the after party. Absolutely fantastic. Brian and I were standing at this table of oysters. We could not believe the size of that. We were just standing. I said, "Are you allergic to oysters?" No. I'm certainly going to find out. Anyway, so Liv Tyler was at this event, and she was surrounded by photographers and people and other stars. And I said to Brian, I said, "That's it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go up to her and ask her why she thought her boobs and her bum were too big." So I pushed. Now, I can't remember his name, but she was married to, or about to be married to, a guy from Yorkshire who was a drummer in a rock band.
All right.
Yeah. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to get through this. So he was on the outside, obviously used to this kind of thing. So I said to him, and he said, "Oh, you're the fella. Okay, yeah." Woof, woof, like this. And I went up to her and I said, "This is me. I made," and she went, "Oh." And she was quite impressed, and I was quite starstruck.
Yeah.
I was like, "Ooh." And she really is more beautiful in real life than you see on the camera. Gorgeous. And so she signed my autograph book. "Thanks for making little me's, Liv Tyler." And I said, "Can you make a 40-year-old man really happy?" And she gave me a kiss on my cheek.
Oh.
Excellent.
And you've not watched it since, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Mary, John Rhys Davis, John Howe.
Oh, we've got a John Howe in there, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little art, little picture.
Actually, at that event, but the night before, that's when we got, twins and us got invited over to stay at Peter Jackson's place.
Ooh.
He had an art exhibition going on there, which was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, his art's amazing.
Richard Taylor from Weta. Gimli. Oh gosh, do you know I can't read that one.
I can't read that one either.
Anyway,
Someone famous.
Someone famous.
someone famous. Andy Serkis.
Yeah. Love Andy Serkis.
And,
And that's really,
Alan
Lee,
Lee.
yeah.
Who did that?
Christopher Lee. Well, he did it.
Alan Lee. So you
Wow.
got John Howe and Alan Lee, which are like the
Wow.
conceptors.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Oh, right. Okay.
And,
Good. Christopher Lee.
Oh, amazing.
Very
have we got
jealous of
time
him.
to tell another-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You said you had a story about Christopher
Christopher
Lee. Yeah,
Lee,
please
yeah.
do. Yeah.
So he
Love Christopher Lee.
launching the game, and there used to be like a cinema fan shop
Upstairs yes.
you.
Yeah. I was there the day that signing was on. I
Were
was
you
going.
there?
It was really odd because I was
my
going to the cinema, and I walked past. It was called the movie. I think it was called the movie store or the cine store.
That's right, yeah.
And I was walking past
the
it,
top floor.
and as I walked past it, I thought, "Who are all these people queuing up?" And as I just saw, just for a brief moment, he turned his head in the right direction. It was like, and I thought, I was like, a movie was booked, so I couldn't. But it was like,
Well, I was there.
Was you
I was
there?
waiting for him
And
to finish.
And a guy I have since then become really good friends with, a guy called Andy. He put a photograph up. You know the way people have, so many years since a photo. And he put a photograph up on Facebook a little while ago. And he goes, "This was me meeting Christopher Lee at the cine store." And I thought, I obviously just walked past you in the queue. And years later, we become mates. Yeah, I remember
nice.
him being at that. Yeah. I was going to the cinema, yeah.
GW sent me down to meet him there
Yeah.
and take him back in the car to Games Workshop. We had a table all laid out. I've got some other photos of it.
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Twins were there, Brian Alessio and the marketing guy, John Paul. And he came in. Now, he'd done board gaming with...
Peter Cushing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peter
Of
Cushing was a
course,
big
yeah.
war gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he knew about the concept of wargaming, and he was looking at it. He was quite impressed. Looked at the models and things like that. And of course, these guys are all on really tight schedules.
Yeah.
And he's not exactly. He was like 80 at the time.
Yeah.
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 You do get starstruck when you meet these people. It's very
Christopher
difficult
Lee.
not to.
Yeah.
And Alan turned around to him, and Christopher Lee genuinely was a massive Lord of the Rings fan. Used
Yeah.
to read it every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can even understand and speak
Yeah.
Elvish.
Sindarin.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And he's
So-
the only person on the crew to ever met him as well. He'd met Tolkien.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the only person to ever met him. Yeah.
And Alan Perry turned around to him and he said, "Mr. Lee," he said, "would you do us the honour? We know you can speak a bit." And he did it in Sindarin. But what he did, you know that scene where Gandalf's with Bilbo and he goes, "Ooh,"
Yes.
yes, just to scare
it
him
was
into.
just like that in real life.
Oh wow!
Honestly, he's a very tall, proud,
Yeah, very upright man. Yeah,
and it just blew our minds. He changed. He just went into it and did this Elvish. I was like, I can feel it now.
Yeah.
Tingles up my back.
Yeah.
And took him downstairs, waved him goodbye.
oh,
But yeah,
wow.
did see him again. But yeah, that was. There were so many magic moments.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even for the crew that were on the film, they had all those magic experiences and magic moments when you watch it. So it's like,
Yeah, they have YouTube things about it. It's such a get together a couple of years ago.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think
they
so.
did,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's we were invited round for lunch, but we didn't quite realise it was lunch. It was sort of late breakfast time, so we'd actually gone to this really well-known cafe up the road from Weta Studios.
Oh, no.
Got stuffed stupid, and then we turned up at the meeting, and they came out with this lunch, and it was as big as this table, and we sort of, and he said, "No, don't be like, don't be polite.
shy.
Help yourself.
Get stuck in, lads.
We're all looking at each other going, "Oh."
It's like an episode of Vicar of Dibley with all the Christmas dinners.
What was it? New Zealand's a great place. But anyway, so yeah, there was another bit of
Amazing.
that.
It's such a phenomenal experience.
Yeah,
I you telling all these stories. I cannot
great.
imagine this in like modern day
No,
Games
no.
Workshop.
No, not at all.
How it's changed.
Really?
Yeah.
yeah.
I've still got I mean, obviously I know Dave. I met Dave the other day at Partisan.
Oh, I meant to go to Partisan. He dropped me a message saying you were going to Partisan, but it was like a couple of birthdays I had to attend, like
That's
kids'
good.
birthdays.
Good show.
Yeah, I do like Partisan. I do like going. Still in Newark,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Drew that little sketch.
If anyone can't see us, you got like Gandalf with a pipe, and then it's a little swirly word, and it says Gary in the smoke.
Yeah.
Very
love it.
colourful character.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, but
We'll sign the rest.
I was going to ask. Oh, there you go.
There he is. Yeah.
There's that.
Was that the boardroom just above the
Yeah.
reception?
That's
Ah,
right. Yeah.
I stood right where he was.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah, I think
Richard
I've even
Taylor
been in
Oh,
that.
Richard Taylor. We had a young lad come from Weta because Perry's had him over, and we taught him how to play Lord of the Rings, and it was the smashing of Isengard. So he had all the Ents fighting against all the orcs and stuff, and he was such a lovely guy. And I didn't think nothing more of it. We just showed him the game and stuff, and he just made loads of cool bits of armour and gear and stuff. And I was after, and the Perry was like, "Oh, he's done this, he's made that." I was like,
Yeah.
"Wish I must ask just more questions now."
Not Falconer, was it? Second name? Second name.
Might have been. Yeah, there's so many talented people on that
Pop that back in.
on that team. It is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure one day you'll have the twins in and they'll be able to expand the
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
But that first trip and the whole experience of making the figures,
Yeah.
it was just something else.
Yeah.
It's just
Did you get to make a cameo in I know the
They
twins
did.
later did. Yeah, they did the Hobbit as well, didn't they?
yeah. You can see him
Are they in the films?
Yeah.
next to the Haradrim. Not the Haradrim, the Oliphant
Yeah,
that's died, and
Yeah.
Mary is looking for Pippin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
you got one hand that's been cut off, so that's Michael,
Yeah.
because he's in Band of Brothers as well. He plays a German who's had his arm blown off. He plays an American that has his arm blown off as well. So
Yeah, he's been typecast.
yeah. Oh no, but they look for people that have
Yes,
had injuries
yeah.
to
Yeah,
use
yeah.
for those kind of things and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, they did in Saving Private Ryan. All the young men who were missing limbs on the beach were all as is often the way. Young men without limbs back then was motorcycle
yeah,
accidents.
yeah.
Yeah, so they used a lot of them.
Crikey.
Yeah.
What do they call that actor's license?
Oh, I don't know.
He's got one of them anyway.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know the one.
Oh, like the Screen Actors Guild
He
or
does bit
something like
parts.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So good.
Phenomenal. Amazing.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a real pleasure, real joy getting some. I
Wait,
feel
wait,
like my
when
hair's
are we gonna
growing
have
back.
the cake?
I know. Well, after just delve in it.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
You
keep
don't
it.
like to be seen eating on camera. It's not pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, Gary.
It's
That's
really
welcome.
lovely
so many
to meet
wonderful
you. Thank you for
stories.
coming in. It's lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
yeah.
Brilliant.
And if you haven't subscribed now,
Hey.
He's done it. He's done it.
Definitely have him back. His memory's better than ours.
and press the like button.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, cheers, Gary. Yeah. And don't forget to join Patreon as well. Just to see
yes,
this earlier.
Well, enjoy Patreon if you want
Well,
to win.
you've seen this now, so
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
just join it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Right. Thanks all.
Thank you very much.
And 6 is up.
Yeah. Fantastic.